subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Drag me over impatiently. It seems that the coach has high expectations for you. Then don't disappoint his expectations. Let's see how many weapons you have at your disposal. Chris did not catch up with Sawamura, but went straight to the point. Facing such a Chris, Eijun did not feel lost, but felt a little nostalgic in his heart. This is Chris. When it comes to baseball, he doesn't care about anything else. After thinking about it, partnering with Chris, and dealing with several third-year seniors, Sawamura was not holding back and directly explained all his current tricks. He trusted Chris very much, and naturally, he had no reservations. The courses that I can use now are roughly divided into two types. One is the straight ball system, and the other is the breaking ball system. The straight ball system now has two variants, ordinary straight and straight fastball. The only breaking ball I've mastered now is the moving, the changeup, and the cutter. Of course, there are a lot of other breaking balls I can throw, but most of them haven't been honed. These are the ones that can be used as weapons at the moment. When Sawamura said it, he was very dissatisfied. For him, the little prince of breaking balls, it is really a shame to only throw so many kinds of balls. The coach taught you a new pitching form. Chris ignored Sawamura's courses, changed the subject, and asked, "Yes, the wall making from." Chris nodded, then squatted on the catcher's position. "Then you should use that form to throw a ball, and see, you should have practiced many times this morning." Yes, Sawamura didn't talk nonsense. He threw aside the towel that Coach Kataoka gave him, picked up the baseball, and stepped into the pitching position. At this time, Miyuki, Tampa, Maiachi, and Kawakami's batteries have also completed their respective training and began to enter the bullpen to practice pitching. When they saw Sawamura and Chris partner, they subconsciously slowed down. At the pitching position, Sawamura couldn't see anything else in his eyes now, only the glove in Chris's hand. 2 outs, runners at third base, 1 strike, and 3 balls. Before Sawamura pitched, Chris said suddenly, "Don't talk about Sawamura. Both Tampa and Kawakami were dumbfounded. Isn't it a practice pitching? Why suddenly take into account the imaginative practice?" Chris isn't that too strict. In the pitching position, Sawamura missed this scene very much. He was not less taught by Chris in his previous life. Who is the batter? Who is the runner? Sawamura asked very plainly. While asking this question, Sawamura praised himself in his heart. "I really am a genius. Looking at how awesome this line is, that stinky Koza Miyuki was dumbfounded," without commenting on what Sawamura thinks in his own heart. But Miyuki, Maiachi, Tampa, and Kawakami were really stunned. Amazing, really amazing. Sawamura, who had just entered high school, had the realization that he would not do boring training for every pitch. Pitching practice plus imaginative practice will have a more practical effect, and will also make every pitch of the pitcher full of meaning. Most importantly, this kind of practice can also better fit the cooperation between the catcher and the pitcher. Let them communicate with each other when they actually compete. Miyuki's eyes were frighteningly bright. Looking at Chris, his heart was full of endless fighting spirit. The 1-year gap did not seem to have wiped out the strength and will of Chris Senpai. He was still the Chris who was as strong as a monster. It's perfect to be able to compete for the position of the main catcher in his last year. Miyuki looked very excited, but Tampa clenched his fists. Not only pitching, but even his consciousness, he is so much worse than Sawamura. At this point, Tampa did not want to admit anyway. Damn. The last summer of the 3rd grade, the ace number, the company of my friends, all of these are like movies, constantly emerging from Tampa's eyes, floating by. No, absolutely not. In the summer of last year, I wouldn't let go easily if I had anything to say about the back number of the ace. Maiachi, let's go. Tampa's fighting spirit was stirred up by Sawamura's words. Maiachi was stunned for a while before chasing after Tampa's figure and leaving. Before leaving, he took a deep look at Chris, who was squatting, and Miyuki, who was standing beside him with excited eyes shining. A deep sense of crisis lingered in his heart, lingering. At this time, Kawakami was the calmest. Anyway, he is a relay pitcher, and he has no ambitions for the ace number. Anyone can do it, they can fight. He just needs to hone his pitching, and when the game comes, he can help the team. Kawakami, who was in the first semester of his second year, thought so from the bottom of his heart. It wasn't until Tampa retired that he began to show his presence. Of course, this is a later story, and we will not mention it for the time being. Then, with Chris and Sawamura the pair of senpai and co-ace. When Sawamura asked who the batter and who is the runner, Chris laughed sincerely. Ichiro the batter, Porter the runner. Sawamura frowned and complained in his mind. These two are not the same generation, nor are they from the same team. In the previous life, when Sawamura entered the profession, Ichiro and Porter had both retired for many years, and Sawamura had never played against them. However, these two are celebrities in the major leagues, and Sawamura has heard about their abilities. If you're their opponent, it should be no problem to suppress them for the first time. Sawamura is very confident about this. With confidence in his heart, Sawamura's pitching became extremely smooth. First, he raised his right foot high and then shoved his right foot out fiercely. When his right foot stepped out, it was like a battle axe, giving people an incomparably sharp feeling. Puff! When his right foot landed, Sawamura's entire body shifted with the center of gravity. With the shift in his body's center of gravity, his right hand was covered with gloves like a wall, and his left arm was swung like a whip. Whoosh! The baseball was in front of Chris's eyes in the blink of an eye. Snap! The baseball hit Chris' glove and flew behind Chris. This was the first pitch of Sawamura's all-out effort in high school. And Chris missed it. 25. Chapter 25, Invitation. In the catcher's position, Chris looked at the white ball behind him in disbelief. The picture he just saw began to appear in his mind involuntarily. The glove and body covered the pitching left hand so that he couldn't see where Sawamura was holding the ball at all. So when the ball came over, it looked so fast. And as far as Chris himself feels, Sawamura's ball isn't just about looking fast. After adopting the new pitching form, Sawamura's ball speed should increase. The exact amount is unknown to Chris, but from his position as a catcher, it is no less than 145. Originally thought that the 135-kilometer ball soared to 145 and the speed increased by 10 kilometers. It is no wonder that Chris's first ball would not adapt. But the truth is, it's not that Sawamura's ball speed is really 145 kilometers. His ball is not that fast. It's just that the catcher feels the ball is faster than expected because he can't see where the ball is being thrown. That's what Chris is talking about. Whether the batter or the catcher is ready, the pitcher starts with the ball in his hand. Although the ball is in the hands of the pitcher at the beginning, the timing and speed of the ball can already be judged by the swing of the arm. Sawamura is different because his arms are naturally soft, and after adopting the wall-making pitching form, his entire left-hand pitching action is blocked by his right-hand glove and chest, making the release point completely invisible to batter. If the batter wants to hit his pitch, he must wait for the ball to be released before he can judge the timing. In this way, it is natural to see that Sawamura's ball is much faster than the real ball speed. The effect is the same. These things were just a momentary thing in Chris's mind. But at this moment, both Sawamura and Miyuki were terrified. The two hurried forward. "Shursho, are you all right?" "Chris senpai." They thought that Chris, who had just recovered, had his injury relapsed. "I'm fine." Looking at the concerned eyes of the two, Chris was moved, but he didn't say a word of thanks on the surface. "Sawamura, throw again." After talking to Sawamura, he turned to Miyuki again and said, "Miyuki, you also stand behind me and have a look. After all, you are still the catcher of the first string." This is a lot of information. Miyuki understood two things. One was this ball, and he had to watch it in advance to catch it. The second is that he is still the catcher of the first string, and the focus is now. As expected of Chris senpai, he is the real deal. Seeing that Chris was all right, Sawamura was relieved. Then he threw the second ball following the pitching form just now. Snap! Chris caught the ball firmly. As expected of a sure show, Sawamura gave Chris a thumbs up excitedly, and Chris nodded with a smile. Neither of them mentioned how the situation and the batter were. The most important thing right now is to catch the ball. As for the imaginary duel just now, Chris and Sawamura have already lost. 2 outs, runners at third base, and if Chris missed a catch, Porter would have run straight back to home plate long ago. The senpai and the kohai are also shameful people. How can you mention such a shameful thing? The cooperation between the two was a tacit understanding, but Miyuki was a little dumbfounded. Damn, is this ball so fast and difficult to catch from the front? If you're already this good with a wall-making form, when you used a towel before, why did you not take it seriously? At this time, Kataoka suddenly appeared out of nowhere, startling Sawamura. Boss, you can't joke like that. It's scary. It will scare people to death. Facing Kataoka's iceberg face wearing sunglasses, Sawamura didn't know for a while how he would explain it. He couldn't tell Kataoka that he was deliberately intimidating him to satisfy his self-esteem. But if he said that to Kataoka's face, it is estimated that Kataoka, who was so embarrassed, would have let him run until the end of the practice without mercy. Sawamura himself was silent. At this moment, a voice suddenly came out and saved him. It should be the feel. When Sawamura throws the ball, the baseball in his hand has a feel. If you have a towel, it may not be suitable. Chris said. Sawamura felt that his eyes were suddenly enlightened, as expected of his own sure show, and he was so good at talking nonsense. Chris, I don't. Yes, yes. He hurriedly affirmed him without hesitation. Kataoka paused, nodded, and believed what Chris said. Don't practice too much. 20 balls in one set. 5 sets are enough. Since Sawamura doesn't feel good when practicing with a towel, he can just use the ball directly. As long as he can learn it, Kataoka is not bothered about this. Of course, the number of pitches can't be too much. After Kataoka asked a few questions, he left gracefully. Sawamura let out a sigh of relief and was too nervous with Kataoka. Miyuki, you want to come and try it? After receiving 5 or 6 pitches, Chris stood up and gave up the position to Miyuki. Yes. Miyuki was not holding back and squatted down directly. Partner, come on. Miyuki excitedly shouted at Sawamura. From the pitching position, Sawamura subconsciously felt a faint chill on his back. Such an enthusiastic Miyuki always gives people a very bad feeling, as if this kid is going to play some tricks. Of course, Sawamura knew that this was impossible, but Miyuki's character was too bad. No matter what he did, Sawamura couldn't feel that he had any good intentions. Even so, Sawamura didn't say anything. In his heart, he still hoped to pitch the ball to Miyuki. Whoosh! The baseball came flying, and Miyuki opened his glove and confiscated the ball in his glove. Snap! Until the ball entered the glove, Miyuki couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. Catching the ball from Sawamura had a lot to do with it. This Saturday, after the semifinals of the spring competition, the whole team has free to use. I and Sawamura had a duel at that time, and I hope you'll come too. After Miyuki catches the ball, Chris invites Miyuki. Aren't you 2 good partners enough? Miyuki looked at Chris in confusion. In addition to squatting in the catcher position to catch Sawamura's ball, I also want to be in the strike zone and see what Sawamura's ball looks like. Chris said it naturally. After all, I'm also a member of the 3rd grade. It has been 2 years since that matchup, but in the mind of the 3rd grade, he has never passed. How much have I improved in the past 2 years in Sidu? There is no better touchstone than Sawamura. You got it. Facing Chris' invitation, Miyuki agreed without much hesitation. Although he wasn't someone like Kurimochi who would die if he didn't watch the fun, he didn't want to miss the battle of the century between the 3rd-year seniors and Sawamura. But the coach won't agree to it. Sawamura's strength is at a time of rapid improvement. As long as Kataoka's brain circuits are normal, he will not agree to let the 3rd-year batter fight against Sawamura now. Why do we have to wait until Sawamura's strength is at a bottleneck? This is a private duel, and it was proposed by Sawamura himself. Chris didn't know that when Isashiki Jun told him what happened earlier. Yes, Sawamura made the offer. But at first, it was the 3rd-year senior who took the initiative to find Sawamura first. 26. Chapter 26. Spring of Youth in West Tokyo. Spring tournament are naturally less valued than summer tournament and autumn tournament, which can determine who can play at Koshien. Especially after entering the top 16 in the Tokyo Spring Tournament and having determined the seeded quota for the summer tournament. This emphasis is even lower. Of course, this is not to say that it is not taken seriously at all. After all, the top 2 teams in Tokyo can participate in the Kanto tournament. Although the Kanto tournament is not as famous as Koshien, it is also the top tournament in the Kanto region. To be able to play in the Kanto tournament and get a good honor is also very tempting for the Giants in Tokyo. Another point is that most of the powerhouses in Kanto have national-level strength. It is also a very rare tournament object for the Tokyo famous schools who are preparing for the summer tournament. Therefore, after the top 16, some big teams in the country who are interested will not mind going further. Seto High School is ambitious this time and naturally will not miss such an opportunity. They want to play in the Kanto Conference no matter what and challenge the national powerhouse. So this semifinal, Seto is still very attentive. As for the tactical training and field cooperation, a lot has been carried out this week. As a pitcher of the first string, Sawamura naturally had to follow along. Not only him, but also Furuya. At this time, the gap between the 2 freshman pitchers became obvious. Sawamura performed very well in every aspect. Furuya, except for his terrifying pitching at the pitcher's position, doesn't know anything at all. This time, too, he, who was supposed to fill at first base, made a mistake when he caught the ball. Do not mind. Furuya didn't know whether it was because he was too thick-skinned or was stupid, and even signaled to his teammates not to mind too much. Who? You are the one who made the mistake, you shameless. Even if we don't ask you to be like Sawamura, you can't make mistakes when you need to fill up. How do you play the game like this? Also, don't put on an indifferent expression. It's you. It's your fault. The players of the Seto first string unceremoniously started the mode of complaining at Furuya. At this time, Tampa was still very senior, telling Furuya to pay attention to the defense and to prepare for the defense the moment the ball was thrown. After the ball is thrown, the pitcher is the 9th fielder on the field. Never forget that. On the other hand, Sawamura's performance was different. Pinning, stealing, passing, guarding, filling when he started to engage in defense training, Sawamura's performance was enough to make everyone look at him. His skills, his completeness, did not look like a 15-year-old boy who had just graduated from middle school. He isn't, at least mentally. Seeing Sawamura's performance, Manger Oda's delight could hardly be hidden. Sawamura-kun can be used as an ace. I believe it will be fine to give him some key scenes. That's what he suggested to Kataoka. Takashima Rei hugged her chest, also satisfied. You know, Sawamura was invited to join the team after a lot of hard work. Don't underestimate the honor Sawamura has achieved in middle school. Although the intensity and rhythm of middle school games are not as good as high school, their tactical arrangements are also very good. As the team's ace and coach, Sawamura can lead the team. His experience and mentality are also a huge asset as the team won the national championship 2 years in a row. This means there is no problem in handing over key scenes to Sawamura, but they are people who have won the national hegemony. Even if high school baseball has received more attention, the national hegemon is the hegemon, and they have the experience of reaching the top. Will the person who can win the national hegemony be nervous in the high school game? This is of course impossible. In this regard, Kataoka has nothing to say. Although Tampa's pitching is good, since he regained his fighting spirit, it can be said that it is getting better and better. But when it comes to comprehensive skills, he may not necessarily be comparable to Sawamura, who is 2 years younger than him. Sawamura is too complete, especially after getting his new form, wall-making form. His pitching strength has risen rapidly. In terms of strength, the current Sawamura is Seto's most trustworthy pitcher. If we can win in the semifinals, I will arrange for him to play in the Kanto tournament. If his pitching skills are almost the same, let him try being an outfielder. In the end, Kataoka made such an arrangement. Outfielder. Oda looked at Kataoka in surprise. For him, letting Sawamura go to guard the outfielder is a bit too much. Takashima Rei was surprised. Not only pitching, but even Sawamura's batting. Was Kataoka taking a fancy to? If the ace pitcher wants to be on the field all the time, it is generally arranged in 2 positions, the mound and the outfielder. It's rare in the pros, but in high school, it's all too common for ace pitchers to be outfielders. There are mainly 2 aspects to consider. The first is that even if the ace pitcher is on the field, even if he doesn't get on the pitching mound, he can give other players psychological comfort. Another is that, in case the substitute pitcher fails and encounters a crisis, the ace pitcher can immediately replace the pitcher mound. Therefore, the real high school ace will never be out unless the opponent is too weak. Otherwise, if you replace the ace, you will be helpless in a crisis. The rules of high school baseball, however, are that once a player is off the field, he must never play again. It's not like basketball or football. I also think this is the same in football. Maybe the author made a mistake. Kataoka has made up his mind to cultivate Sawamura as an ace. Of course, he did it for other reasons. For example, being an outfielder is also good for training Sawamura's long passing and ball speed. There is also a very important point. Even if Sidhu is so strong now, Kataoka still can't turn a blind eye to Sawamura's batting. Amazing. Although Sawamura is not a strong batter, he has a batting average of more than 60% and has flexible tactical batting skills. Ordinary opponents are nothing. Sawamura's attacking skills are an unparalleled weapon in the offensive. Regardless of that aspect, Kataoka believes that Sawamura has the strength to become the main fighting force in Sidhu. It was still Chris who supervised the execution, and Sawamura began to get in touch with outfielder defense. And it was also Furuya Satoru who practiced with him. As an outfielder, Furuya Satoru did a good job. He has no problem catching and passing the ball. He is still very talented. Sawamura is even better. He has also been an outfielder in Akagi, and he is very familiar with outfielder skills. When Sawamura in the first string gradually showed a sense of existence, Sidhu ushered in their spring semifinals. The day before the game, Kuramochi left the classroom, ready to go to practice. At this time, a little beauty with shawl hair suddenly appeared behind him. Hee, Sakurako-chan, what's up? Recognizing the person, Kuramochi was elated, but he didn't expect that this Uncle Kuramochi would also have a day when the peach blossoms flooded. When Sakurako shyly glanced at Kuramochi, that made the young man's heart flutter when he looked at her. Well, Kuramochi-kun, you're on the baseball team, right? Yes. Then do you know Sawamura-kun? 27. Chapter 27. A fight by the river that night. When Sawamura returned to the dormitory, the atmosphere was very wrong. Masuko Toru hadn't come back yet, and only Kuramochi was in the dormitory. He sat in front of the TV very calmly, watching TV seriously. The strange thing is that there is no sound on the TV, and the screen only has a flickering picture. So abnormal. Sawamura's keen intuition told him that it was very dangerous here. So he raised his legs and was about to leave. Where are you going? The room was quiet, and the sound of Sawamura opening the door was particularly abrupt. Now that he was about to pull the door and leave again, the sound was even more abrupt. Kuramochi calmly picked up the remote control, turned off the silent TV, and asked without looking back, "It's okay, I'll just go out for a walk." The ominous feeling became more and more serious, and Sawamura ran away. At this moment, the names of countless sages and wise men flashed in Sawamura's mind, and these sages told Sawamura the same truth. Running away is half of the bravery. Although I don't know why Kuramochi is angry. Well, he is always angry. Anyway, Sawamura should be anywhere but here now. Come here. Kuramochi jumped up and rushed towards Sawamura like a hungry tiger. Tell me, how dare you seduce with Sakurako? Do you know that she is our class's Madonna? Sawamura might be Kuramochi's opponent, but he was caught by Kuramochi as soon as he turned around. As soon as Sawamura opened his mouth, he was fixed by Kuramochi's scorpion lock technique. Just cross Sawamura's legs and hold them with Kuramochi's thigh. This way, Sawamura can only touch the ground with both hands and has no power to fight back. Don't argue, you playboy. Don't you have a childhood friend in your hometown? What did Sawamura want to say? Once again, he was rudely stopped by Kuramochi. Sawamura wanted to cry without tears. He just wanted to ask, who is Sakurako? The next morning, Sidhu's team members took a bus to watch the spring tournament semifinals of the Sidhu first string. High school training is not unrestrained, especially during competitions. At least on the day of the tournament, Sidhu does not require everyone to train. But in a place like Sidhu, it's hard to say. Except for the first team of players participating in the tournament, most of the other players will practice on their own. If you want to climb up, How can you not work harder than others? In this semifinal, Seco played very crazily and finally defeated the opponent with a big score of 12-5. Such a score in the Tokyo semifinals is rare even for Seco. Manager Oda looked at the menacing lineup in front of him in surprise and muttered bizarrely, "Have you all taken some batting medicine?" Although Sawamura and Furuya joined the first string, the registration for the Tokyo spring competition had already closed, so they could not participate in the competition as first string for the time being. Only in the audience, watching everyone's performance. Seco successfully advanced to the Tokyo finals and won the qualification for the Kanto tournament. The whole team cheered. Seco Banzai. After everyone got on the bus, Manager Oda announced the order for a holiday after returning to school. The players of the first string gather in the conference room at night to discuss the tactics of tomorrow's final. In the finals, according to Seco's previous style, 80% of the time is to arrange for substitutes. So there is no need to prepare specially, just ask at night. In this way, Seco's players ushered in a rare half-day vacation. Saturday afternoon, all players have a holiday. As for how many people will rest this afternoon, it is hard to say. However, when the first string is selected, it is necessary to rest. This is also an unspoken rule, not only to relieve the fatigue of the game, but also to free up scarce resources such as pitching machines and training equipment. The various training areas of Seco are a lot, but there is still not enough of it to satisfy everyone's training. Like pitching machines and strength training equipment, these things are still closely related to the military. You must know that there are a total of 93 players in Seco. If everyone practices batting, they have to use pitching machines. How many pitching machines are needed? The same is true for other facilities normally. The first string has occupied these resources for a long time. When there are holidays or rotations, the first string should also be sensible to let these facilities out and give other teammates a chance. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is in the west, and the spring breeze is gentle, and everyone who witnesses it will be drunk in the atmosphere. By the small river next to Sita High School, the environment is very good, the scenery is good, and there are not many people. In the evening, after dinner, many players of the second string like to come here to practice swinging, but of course they are not here now. Now that the entire string is resting, they rarely have access to training equipment and pitching machines where they will come here. Sawamura sat by the small river, feeling the spring breeze, and the sound of beeping constantly came from the mobile phone in his hand, reminding him that a text message had come in. But Sawamura didn't care about this. He was waiting for someone. After a while, the person he was waiting for came. "Hello, senpais." Sawamura got up, looked at the seniors in front of him, and greeted them respectfully. Yuki nodded. "Now there are no senpais, only opponents. Let us start." Yuki Tetsuya, Kaminato Ryosuke, Isashiki Jun, Takigawa Chris, and Masuko Toru in the third grade. There are quite a few high-level batters. Wait, there's one more left. After Chris finished speaking, a figure rushed behind him. "I'm sorry, I overslept at noon." The last person to arrive, is Miyuki. "How come? Here is a small river, not as convenient as a baseball field." "Well, the strike zone is by the river, and I throw the ball with my back against the school wall. With the height of the dam and the wall, any ball higher than that is a home run." Sawamura has been investigating for a long time, and he has long planned to do this. "The 5 of us, or do we arrange it?" Yuki is no nonsense. Just ask Sawamura directly. If 5 people play 4 duels, it will be too bullying. With Sawamura's current physical strength, it is impossible to compete with the 5 of them at the same time, throwing more than 4 rounds without interruption. It's the old rules. You can arrange the lineup freely, a group of 3 for rounds. Sawamura said. "How was the victory calculated?" Isashiki said coldly. "A hit is 1 point. As long as I drop 2 points in a round, I will lose. If I lose a home run, I will also lose." Sawamura thought for a moment and said, 3 people in a round and only 1 hit in a round. If it's not a home run, Sawamura wins. If it's a draw then, we'll add another round. Sawamura will work with Chris in the first round, Miyuki in the second, Chris in the third, and Miyuki in the fourth. I won't give you information about Sawamura in the first 2 rounds, and I will give you information and advice in the third and fourth rounds. After Sawamura finished speaking, Chris added, in this duel, both sides are very serious, and they try to be fair. This is only possible if they respect each other. 28. Chapter 28. Kick them hard. The catcher who partnered with Sawamura in the first round was Chris. At this time, Miyuki came to serve as the referee. Miyuki also got equipment from who knows where. He even got the protective mask on the head of the referee. You are too careful. Seeing Miyuki in full armor, Sawamura felt inexplicably happy. I don't want to take chances. Miyuki laughed. It wasn't all about himself. It was more about Chris, who had just recovered after all. For Sawamura and Miyuki's caution, Chris was curious and funny. They really took him as a glass man. But Chris really felt the sincerity of the two towards him. It's just that he's not the kind of person who puts his gratitude on his lips, so this emotion can only flow silently in his heart. The first game, what are you going to do? Sawamura ran to Chris and asked. As a catcher, Chris belongs to lead the pitcher type of catcher. He can adjust a pitcher's state to the best. When partnering with Miyuki, Sawamura still thinks about putting forward his own ideas and opinions. But not with Chris. He will choose the ball that suits you according to your state. Miyuki once said a famous saying that pitching is a work of art created by a pitcher and a catcher. This is not only Miyuki, but Chris has also done it. Neither is the type to use the pitcher as a tool, and they also hate the pitcher's use of the catcher as a tool to catch the ball. They pay a lot of attention to guiding the pitchers so they can show their best pitches. Of course, the two also have their own individualities, not exactly the same. Chris listened to Sawamura and asked him, turned around and glanced at them, and said in a low voice, "You haven't shown your new pitching form in front of them, have you?" Sawamura was stunned when he heard the words, but he answered honestly, "They must have seen it, but not in the batting zone." Chris said, "Then let them see, okay." Sawamura's new pitching form. It is absolutely impossible to comprehend the mystery just by watching from the side. In the first round, Kaminato Ryosuke was the first batter and Isashiki Jun was the second. The Yuki Tetsuya was the finale. Kaminato Ryosuke stood in his batting form, squinting at Eijun who was pitching. Chris has not relaxed his observation of Ryosuke. After seeing Ryosuke's stance and holding the bat, he gave Sawamura the first sign. First ball, inside corner, normal straight ball. Sawamura nodded slightly. He believed in Chris's calling. He saw Sawamura raise his right foot high, and then his right foot slashed down like a battle axe. As his center of gravity shifted, Sawamura's right glove blocked his body like a shield. On the batting zone, Kaminato originally made up his mind to swing the first ball. He has always come across as an extremely tough batter who likes to pick four-ball walk on base. Chris and Sawamura knew this. So, this time he was uncharacteristically swinging the bat when he was ready for the first ball. The plan was good, but when he saw Sawamura pitching, his plan fell through. The reason is simple. He couldn't even see where Sawamura put the ball. When he pitched the ball, the spot was tightly blocked by his body and gloves. Whoosh. The baseball was thrown, but Kaminato Ryosuke failed to swing. Snap. The baseball landed in Chris's open glove with a crisp sound. Strike. Miyuki judged with a smile. Really interesting. The smile on Ryosuke's face became brighter and brighter. He even looked back at Miyuki, and when Miyuki felt his heart flutter, he turned to look at Sawamura. The throwing point is completely invisible, and the ball is coming faster than expected. Sawamura Eijun, 2 years have passed, and the progress of this kid is really scary. However, I was not wasting my time in Sea-Doo. Just let me see what else is great about your pitching. Just when Kaminato made up his mind, Eijun's second ball came, and his pitching rhythm was still fast. On the batting zone, Kaminato Ryosuke sneered in his heart. "I'm sorry, but I can't go as you wish." In the face of this ball, Ryosuke Kaminato swung decisively. Ping! The white ball was hit and flew high. Sawamura took 2 steps back, opened his gloves, and caught the ball. Ow! Kaminato Ryosuke was directly shut out by Sawamura. In fact, when he touched the ball, Ryosuke Kaminato had a premonition that it was bad because the ball was not hit hard. Sawamura threw a moving ball. Because he was so concerned about Sawamura's new pitching form, he even forgot that Sawamura had many other pitches. In fact, It's even more scary to think so, because Sawamura's pitching has improved a whole level because he has learned a new pitching form. The speed of the ball itself has increased, and there's no place to see the ball. It feels that the speed of the ball is faster than the real ball speed. What a little monster. Kaminato Ryosuke knew that he was being tricked, not only by Sawamura, but also by Chris. Speaking of which, Chris is also interesting. He only stood where he was now, and whether it was the third grader or Sawamura's partner, he would give it his all. Such a guy is very reliable as a teammate. But as an opponent, it's also a headache. After Kaminato Ryosuke was out, it was Isashiki's turn at bat. Please take care of me. Isashiki Jun greeted Chris and Miyuki politely. There was a big drop of cold sweat on the heads of the two of them. One of the two is Isashiki's kohai, and the other is Isashiki's classmate. It seems that we don't need to use honorifics, right? Come, brat. Show me your pitch. This guy has made this a required homework. It is basically a routine now. Turning his face, Isashiki seemed to have changed into the familiar spits. Isashiki's grip is very strange, but his batting is very good. With such an opponent, you can never guess what he is thinking. Chris frowned, not knowing how to deal with Isashiki. When Chris was in the first string, Isashiki hadn't played yet. In fact, until Chris was injured, Isashiki didn't make a comeback. When he recovered, Isashiki seemed to be the core batter of the famous Sea-Doo. On Isashiki, Chris has very limited knowledge. Just when he hesitated, he saw Sawamura looking at him with firm eyes. Rest assured with the ball. As long as I am here, I will definitely win. His eyes seemed to speak. With me here, we are invincible. This is the first time Chris has seen Sawamura like this. It is indeed the super ace who led his team and dominated the nation twice. If nothing else, the determination of Sawamura is far beyond what ordinary pitchers can match. Looking at Sawamura like this, Chris also has made his plan for ball calling. Then let's hit them hard. 29. Chapter 29. Big event. Weekends are always relaxing. Kusaki Sakurako accompanied her sister Kusaki Hayuri after shopping, and the two were heading home. Hayuri, the older sister, is 10 years older than Sakurako. She has been working for several years now and is a very successful white-collar worker. It was said that Kusaki Sakurako accompanied her sister shopping, but it was her sister who gave Sakurako some small gifts and clothes. Although the two are not direct sisters, their relationship is closer than that of blood-related sisters. The two young beauties who talked and laughed along the way naturally attracted a lot of coveted eyes around them. In this regard, Kusaki Sakura is still a bit shy, but her sister can already be calm. Kusaki Sakurako glanced at her sister admiringly, thinking in her heart, when will she become a person like her sister? Her sister Kusaki has always been Sakurako's idol. Ring, ring, a pleasant cell phone rang, and Kusaki Sakurako greeted her sister and took out her cell phone from her handbag. It's her friend, Ikari-chan. Ikari-chan is, of course, a nickname because she's always in a hurry all day, so Sakurako called her that. Ikari is a play of words in Japanese which mean mad. What's wrong? Without any hesitation, Kusaki Sakurako pressed the answer button. If she dares to be late, Ikari-chan will definitely cut her into 8 pieces. Something's happened. Sakurako, something's happened. A big thing. The call was connected, and the loud voice of the Ikari-chan rang. Sakurako gracefully took the phone away, keeping the noise away from her eardrums. Okay, let's talk. No matter what it is, in the eyes of the Ikari-chan, it is a big thing, a big thing. Your dream boy is dueling with someone else. Do you think it's a big deal? Dream boy? Sakurako was stunned for a moment before she understood who the Ikari-chan was talking about. Sawamura-kun, what happened to him? Sure enough, the sound changed. On the other side of the phone, a bubbly girl with short hair giggled. Would you like to know? Would you like to know? Say it. Sakurako's voice suddenly increased a little. Is this your attitude to talk to someone who knows? You're still the captain of the cheerleading team, so you don't have any emotional IQ at all. The voice on the other side of the phone sounded a bit playful. Forget it. Don't make trouble with you. Come to my house. It's by the river next to my house, the one next to our school. Beeb. Just as she finished speaking here, the sound of the phone hanging up came from the other side. Ikari-chan happily threw herself on the bed and rolled around. Sa-chan, I didn't expect you to have an appointment today. Kusaki Sakurako looked at her sister apologetically and said, Wani-chan, I suddenly have something to do, and I can't go home with you. Hayuri looked at her sister, her eyes sparkling with sparkling light. Sa-chan, are you in love? Well, there is dash. Kusaki Sakurako looked at her sister in disbelief, her face flushed. Our Sa-chan has also grown up and has reached the age of falling in love. Hayuri smiled and didn't care. Go. When you see the little love, say hello to me. Wani-chan. Sakurako groaned softly, but without explaining much, she directly found a taxi and headed to Sidu. So anxious. As a senior reporter, Hayuri knows that to explain is to cover up, and to cover up is to be dishonest. The more hesitant the younger sister was, the more she confirmed her guess from the side. By the river. At this time, Sawamura didn't know that the name that he heard from Kuramochi before was about to intersect with him. He was also immersed in the showdown with the third-year senior. Facing Isashiki, Chris gave Sawamura the first sign. The ball was in the zone, and a change-up at that. To be honest, this pitch was a very risky one, and it didn't look like a ball that Chris would call for. The change-up itself is not a great ball. At the level of a first-string batter at Cedar High School, they can wait for the ball to enter the zone before swinging. If they played like that, Sawamura's changeup would become a meatball. The changeup ball can only exert its power when it is mixed with the straight ball. Take advantage of that sudden difference in ball speed to catch the batter off guard. If you throw a changeup on the first ball, once you see it through, you are likely to be beaten. If you don't pitch well, you will be tortured. For pitchers, this challenge is like walking a tightrope. It's very exciting. And this kind of tension also stimulated Eijun's nerves, making him excited. Sure enough, partnering with Chris Shisho is exciting. On the pitcher mound, Sawamura raised his legs high, and the momentum of the whole body began to rise. At the plate, Isashiki's fierce gaze was firmly locked on Sawamura, not letting go of a single bit of detail. Seeing Sawamura lift his leg, he subconsciously clenched the bat in his hand. When Sawamura was throwing the ball, he couldn't see the spot at all, which Kaminado had told Isashiki before. In this regard, Isashiki has long been mentally prepared. But even if you're mentally prepared, you will still feel uncomfortable. TSK, I can lose to this little trick. Despite the discomfort, Isashiki swung the first shot. His swing is not smooth, but, strangely, such a smooth swing is very powerful. Buzz. The bat swung like a gust of wind, swept the leaves, and there was nothing in sight. The ball is so slow, incredibly slow. Isashiki, who originally thought that Sawamura would throw a straight fastball, had already swung ahead of time, so Sawamura's changeup came a long time after his swing. Snap! Strike! Miyuki's eyes were terrifyingly bright. It's beautiful. Chris's calling is beautiful, and Sawamura's pitch is even better. In the face of Isashiki, who swings aggressively, it is ideal to use the changeup on the first shot. And Sawamura's performance was even more beautiful. Just now, even he thought for a moment that Sawamura would throw a straight. Raise your legs, step, swing your arms. Throw the ball, whether it's a straight ball or a changeup. You can't see the slightest difference in Sawamura's movements. This guy, the degree of completion is really terrible. Miyuki admired in his heart. Yuki, Kaminado, and Masuko, but their faces were very ugly. Isashiki, who has a good sense of the ball, is actually swinging so much faster. Without allowing them to think too much, Sawamura threw the second ball. Go to hell. The first swing failed, and facing the second ball, Isashiki still swung with the same full force. Snap! Strike! Strike batter out. The second pitch is inside course, and the third pitch is low and away. Isashiki, who swung continuously, didn't touch a single ball and was struck out. In fact, since the first changeup he missed, he has been led by Chris by the nose. In the first round of the duel, Sawamura shut out Ryosuke Kaminado and struck out Isashiki. As long as he doesn't let Yuki Tetsuya hit a home run, he's going to win. But that, of course, is not an easy task. 30. Chapter 30. This is the captain. One shutout, one strikeout. Despite Chris's contribution to the ball, Sawamura's strength still shocked the third-year players. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, it would be hard for them to believe that a freshman who just entered high school could be so strong. That stinky bastard, Isashiki said with a sigh of relief. Next to him, Ryosuke laughed and teased. If you get 3 strikes, you said they shouldn't be petty. Haven't you been shut out the same? Isashiki said reluctantly. At least I hit the ball. Jun, Ryosuke. Yuki ignored the bantering of the two, and while walking to the batting zone, he said, if you have time, it's better to think about the second round. If they lost all 4 rounds to Sawamura, then they shouldn't mess around. After finishing speaking, Tetsuya went to the strike zone. There was no emotion on his face. Stand naturally, hold the bat naturally, and keep your eyes calm. What a presence. Seeing Yuki like that, Chris was unable to stop his shock. Although after the injury, Chris knows that the growth of the Yuki is very fast. Even professional scouts have a lot of eyes on him, but he still didn't expect that he would feel such a powerful momentum when he faced off against the young captain. Just 1 year ago, his strength was still far more than that of Yuki. Not only comprehensive strength, even if it is an attacking strength, he has to be faintly higher than Yuki. But now, without looking at the bat, Chris knew that he might have been thrown off rhythm just from this momentum. He clenched his hand unwillingly. Thinking of the wasted time, Chris felt tormented. However, he never gave up. If he can recover from the injury, he will definitely be able to make up the gap this year. Even now, seeing the powerful Yuki, Chris is not going to back down. Since Sawamura entered high school, Tetsuya has never seen Sawamura throw a pitch in the batting zone. In this case, as long as the ball is matched correctly, Tetsu will definitely not be a problem. With a plan in mind, Chris gave Sawamura a sign. The first ball, the magic ball, in addition to several kinds of straight balls and breaking balls, Sawamura also has a kind of ball, which is the kind of magic ball he threw in the inter-team game before. When he stepped out, his toes were not aimed at home plate, but deviated 10 degrees or even 20 degrees. A pitch like this is incredible to the batter because from your point of view, it's impossible to make a pitch like this go to the strike zone. But Sawamura is different. He can not only throw the ball into the strike zone after stepping off, but also cause the batter to have a visual dislocation due to the distortion of his body. If you don't swing the bat, you're sure to get a strikeout. When you swing the bat, what you see in the real ball are not in the same position. According to data, that kind of pure straight fastball will cause visual dislocation. From the batter's point of view, the pitcher's ball is much lower than the real ball. Unless you have a top dynamic vision, you have to aim for 2 or more balls above the path you're looking at to hit the ball. Furuya's straight has such a characteristic. The batter often faces his pitching and swing, although part of the reason is because the ball is too fast, but there are still some strong batters that have been solved because Furuya has this kind of ball that causes the batter to have a visual dislocation. Sawamura's magic ball copied this straight ball to some extent. It's just that Sawamura's ball speed is not as fast as Furuya's, so his magic ball, strictly speaking, is not as good as Furuya's straight ball. But even if it is not as good as Furuya Satoru's straight ball, it is easy to be at a loss when facing this kind of ball suddenly. That's what Sawamura throws now. Whoosh. He stepped out, and the magic ball was thrown. On the strike zone, the first ball was up, and Tetsu swung the bat decisively. Ping. White's ball was hit and flew out at a faster speed than when it came. Snap. The baseball lands. Foul. Miyuki made a visual inspection and judged. If the ball hadn't gone out of the zone, it would have been a pretty good hit. Sawamura on the pitching mound and Chris on the catcher's faces suddenly sank. The captain's swing was even more terrifying than they had imagined. It seemed silent, but the ball hit is like lightning. It is absolutely impossible to deal with such a batter carelessly. After Chris let out a long breath, he gave Sawamura the second ball sign, a moving on the edge of the outside corner. Seeing Chris's match, Sawamura nodded and then shot the ball decisively. Ping. The ball was also hit and flew out of bounds. Foul. 2 strikes, 0 balls. From the point of view of the count alone, Chris and Sawamura will undoubtedly have an advantage now. But the real situation is not so. 2 consecutive pitches were smashed out, and they were so beautiful and clean. At this moment, neither Sawamura nor Chris could relax. Instead, they seemed to be chased as if no matter what the ball was, it could be caught. It's not that Chris and Sawamura are worrying about it. In fact, the resulting swing is really scary. You can walk me. According to our previous rules, if you walk me, you will win this round. With a cold face, Tetsuya suggested to Chris. This is the captain. Chris replied with a smile. Don't worry, we won't do that. If you can hit a home run, you could try it. The third ball, Cutter's ball in the inner corner. The opponent is Yuki, and Chris also knows that it is impossible to solve him with ordinary half-job pitching. At this time, Sawamura can only throw some difficult balls. Ping! Cutter's ball in the inner corner was also hit and flew out of bounds. In the process of continuous hits, the momentum accumulated in the body of Tetsu gets stronger and stronger. Chris knew it couldn't go on like this. If Tetsu cannot be resolved as soon as possible, not to mention the danger of this inning, the young captain may consume too much of Sawamura's pitches. The batters are a rotation, but the pitcher is Sawamura himself. Then in the next ball, we have to finish him. With an idea in mind, Chris decisively gave Sawamura a sign. Next ball, straight fastball to the inside corner. New pitching stance plus high-speed straight. I can't believe it can't be solved. The first-year pitcher, Sawamura, nodded slightly. Then his foot stepped out and slashed the ground like a battle axe. The glove in his right hand was hidden in front of him like a wall, and the baseball in his left hand swung with his arm like a whip, pitching. Whoosh! The white ball left his hand like a ray of light, passing through the eyes of Yuki Tetsuya. Snap! Strike batter out. At the end of the first round, Kaminado Ryosuke, Isashiki Jun, and Yuki Tetsuya had been shut out. 31. Chapter 31. Round 2 begins just that pitch. Tetsuya's pupils dilated a little, and the ball that Sawamura had just thrown constantly appeared in his mind. That ball is a straight fastball with a new form. The fastball pitch itself is particularly fast because the difference between the initial speed and the speed after entering the plate is very small. In addition, there is no sight of the launching point, and Sawamura's ball speed is approaching 140 kilometers per hour. From the batter's point of view, this ball is even more amazing than a 150 kilometers per hour pitch. It doesn't mean that a straight ball of 150 kilometers per hour cannot be hit. It's just that he didn't expect that Sawamura's pitch would be so fast. No one can hit this kind of ball after seeing it for the first time. With such a judgment, the young captain doesn't dwell on it. With the pitching ability Sawamura showed before, they never thought of defeating Sawamura in the first round. In the first round of attack, the most important task is actually to gather intelligence. In this respect alone, the third grade gain a lot in the first round. Let's watch the second round. At the beginning of the second round, Isashiki Jun put on the equipment of Miyuki Kinzuya. Isn't Senior Chris the referee? Miyuki asked curiously. Kozo, where did you get so much nonsense? Just do what the senpai says. Isashiki said angrily. Let Chris be the referee. Do you think they are fools? At this time, of course, Chris, the big man, should be put on the field. Chris's understanding of the strength of these teammates in the third grade is limited, because he has spent most of the past year in rehab. For the past 3 months, he has been in the United States. Even so, Chris and Sawamura managed to get 3 outs without much effort. Not to mention Miyuki, who understands their strength. Chris didn't have time to observe them because of his recovery, but Miyuki was different. As long as he had time, Miyuki never relaxed his observation of them. Even if Isashiki didn't enjoy seeing Miyuki normally, he had to admit Miyuki's talent and skills as a catcher. If it was Miyuki with the pitch calling, he would probably be easily solved, as did Seco. After all, in the final analysis, their blows are not as comprehensive as Tetsu and Ryosuke. The pitcher was Sawamura, and the catcher was Miyuki, who was familiar with them. Even Isashiki didn't think he had much chance of hitting. In that case, it's better to leave the opportunity to Chris, who is all unknown. In the second round, the first batter was Kaminado Ryosuke, who has remained unchanged for years. And then the second batter is Chris, and the third batter is Yuki. After deciding the order of batters, Ryosuke stood in the batting zone for the second time. The first batter that can't be beaten. After standing in the strike zone, Kaminato Ryosuke muttered to himself. Miyuki squatted in the position of the catcher, and when he heard Kaminato's words, he couldn't help laughing. Yes, in the current arrangement of the third grade, it is very suitable for Ryosuke to play the first batter. With his batting skills, it is not easy to solve him. And once you get entangled with him, maybe more information will be leaked. In this case, the best way is to shut him out. Then let's be a bit tough. The first ball, a straight fastball to the inner corner. The fastest ball speed and the strongest ball power suppress Kaminato Ryosuke's flexible batting skills. Miyuki's strategy is very simple and rude. He had confidence in Sawamura's pitching, and when he was the referee, he had just seen Sawamura settle the final pitch from behind the catcher. With the speed and power of the ball, it was no problem to win Ryosuke, who was seeing this kind of ball for the first time. On the pitcher's mound, seeing Miyuki's call, Sawamura was inexplicably energetic. Whether it's Chris or Miyuki, when they're the catcher, they all can make the pitcher's fighting spirit very high. Crush Ryosuke with a tough pitch. Just thinking about it, Sawamura was very excited. So exciting, his right foot was raised high, and then he stepped out fiercely like a battle axe, followed by his right glove covering his body. And then his chest from the batter's point of view. Sawamura's pitching momentum is very scary. And the strange thing is that such a strange pitching form makes people unable to see the ball. What a troublesome guy, not counting the ever-changing balls of Sawamura. Just his pitching form is enough to deceive people. Whoosh! The baseball was shot at a frightening speed, but it flew into Miyuki's open glove in the blink of an eye. TSK. Strike. Although Isashiki's voice was full of dissatisfaction, he said it truthfully. On the strike zone, a weird expression appeared on Kaminato Ryosuke's face. Who can tell him what happened to the ball just now? From his point of view, the ball should have at least 150 kilometers. It's not that Ryosuke has no basis for nonsense. There are still several top pitching machines in Sita High School, and they have all seen the fastest ball speed of 160 kilometers. 160, 155, 150 these ball speeds must be seen, which is a small benefit of the first string. Of course, you don't have to hit the ball like this. At least you won't be too surprised by the speed of the opponent's ball. I've seen 160 kilometers, and then I've seen 150 kilometers. Although I can't hit it, I feel that the speed is average. For balls of 150 kilometers and below, you need to practice hitting and catching. The catcher has to catch, and the batter has to hit. This is the real reason why the powerhouses are so powerful. Or you let some of the fastest batters who have only ever seen 134 kilometers pitches suddenly go against 150 kilometers pitches. Unless they're all talented, maybe they can hit it there. Could Sawamura's ball speed be 150? Don't think about it. Ryosuke also knows that it is impossible. But it seems that the ball is 150 kilometers per hour. How do you get it? This is hard to do. Just when Kaminato Ryosuke was a little embarrassed, Sawamura's second pitch came. Whoosh! The same form, the same position. Kaminato can only choose to entangle, hold the bat short, and greet the ball out of bounds. Ping! He swung the bat ahead of time, and he seized the opportunity to swing the bat, but the ball was so heavy and terrifyingly heavy. Although Ryosuke barely kept up with the swing, he couldn't get the ball out of bounds and could only hit a limp grounder forward to the mound. Sawamura picked up the ball very easily and made a pass to first base. Out! In the second round of confrontation, Sawamura solved Kaminato Ryosuke, who had very comprehensive batting skills, with 2 pitches. The strength he showed was unstoppable. Very good. Miyuki is also very excited, and what excites him the most is the next batter. Chrisu. 32. Chapter 32. The hearts of 3 people sure show. Sawamura looked at Chris with a complicated look. When they cooperated before, he didn't feel that way. Now, as an opponent, Sawamura has some inexplicable feeling that something is wrong. Chris was injured just like his previous life, but unlike his previous life, he recovered 3 months before the start of the summer tournament. What's next? Sawamura didn't know and didn't want to think about it. He knew that both Chris and Miyuki were competing for the main catcher position. Although Miyuki is a current catcher, his strength is also outstanding, and he is well known in Tokyo and even the whole country. It seems that the main position is very stable. But Chris was promoted to the team's main catcher in the summer of his freshman year of high school. At that time, he had the strength of the first string. Now, 2 years later, although there's a 1-year window in the middle, the specific strength is also unknown. When the two compete, it is hard to say who is stronger and who is weaker. As far as Sawamura himself is concerned, it is also very difficult to choose who would he support. He didn't know whether to help his master or Miyuki. Sawamura's thoughts went back and forth, but Miyuki's thoughts were very simple. He has been eager to have the opportunity to compete fairly with Chris as a main catcher. Now that his wish has come true, of course, he has to weigh his opponent's strength. Let's have a good time, Chris-senpai. Miyuki and Sawamura's thoughts were faintly felt by Chris. Honestly, he was moved, but it was because of this feeling that he could not let them down, and he had to go all out. Bring it. The bat in his hand pointed at Sawamura, and Chris showed extraordinary aura. On the mound, seeing Chris's actions, the now young pitcher was successfully dragged out of that complicated emotional state. As a pitcher, it is unacceptable to be challenged and let it go. On the field, not even Master Chris. You got it. Sawamura's aura suddenly changed, becoming exceptionally fierce, like a sword he had just drawn. Miyuki also felt his momentum. Okay, let's deal with him then. The opponent was Chris, and Miyuki played the ball very carefully. Now Sawamura's fighting spirit is very high, sharp, and scary, and he can just use his momentum to deal with Chris. First, the cutter ball is on the edge of the inside corner. Such a ball, even if Chris hits it with his bat, will become a foul ball. Whoosh! Seeing Miyuki's sign, Sawamura pitched the ball without any hesitation. A small white ball flew towards him. On the strike zone, Chris watched Sawamura throw the ball without blinking. He is different from Kaminato Ryosuke and Yuki Tetsuya. The two had never seen Sawamura's new pitch before, but Chris supervised Sawamura's step-by-step practice of the new form. So he was not confused by Sawamura's new form and calmly judged the path of the ball. The ball path is the inside corner. The first ball, Chris did not swing. Snap. Strike. 1 strike, 0 ball. In the position of the catcher, Miyuki's eyes were frighteningly bright. Very good. If you don't swing the bat on the first ball, you can play another ball at the same position. For this ball, the ball must be firmly grazing the sideline of the inside corner, so if that ball was hit, it will be foul. Immediately afterward, Miyuki gave Sawamura the second sign. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura nodded slightly. The right foot was raised high, and then like a battle axe, it slashed to the ground. As the center of gravity of the body moved, Sawamura's hand swung like a whip. Whoosh! The small white ball, as if an accelerator was installed, kept advancing. On the strike zone, Chris targeted the ball and swung decisively. Ping! The white ball was hit and flew out. Foul! Isashiki's mouth was almost crooked, and the ball almost flew into the field. No balls, 2 strikes. The batter was chased. The imposing Sawamura, Miyuki, is trying his best to work his brain. Once the two of them join forces, their power is still terrifying. Next is the crucial third pitch. Miyuki glanced at Chris and decisively gave Sawamura a sign. According to the general theory, you should make good use of the 3 ball space you have, and at least throw 1 ball first to catch a fish. If Chris takes the initiative to swing the bat because he's being chased, they've earned it. Of course, the pitcher is Sawamura, and the general theory is useless. At this time, it is best to throw a strike to decide the outcome. On the mound, the flame in Sawamura's eyes was burning hot. Even if he had more than 10 years of professional experience in his previous life, he brought his friends to dominate the country after his rebirth in middle school, and he had a strong battle with Chris now. He also absolutely cannot allow someone to provoke him in the strike zone. As long as you stand in the batting zone, then you are my opponent. The next ball, I will get you out. On the strike zone, Chris's eyes were as calm as water, and they seemed to understand everything. The speed and rhythm of the ball have been soaring, with 2 cutter balls being used in a row before. Then the final lure shot. That is Miyuki. Change up. Sawamura. Change up. Chris. Change up. At this moment, the hearts of the 3 people are synchronized. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura's aura was astonishing, as if he was going to devour the sky. Whoosh! Sawamura throws the ball. Chris waited until the ball was in his hand before swinging. Ping! After the small white ball was hit, it flew to the dam. Hit! The first hit came, and the creator was Takegawa Chrisu. Miyuki looked at Chris in disbelief. He guessed it. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura clenched his fist unwillingly. The pitch just now was bad. If he pitch it well, even if Chris can guess the ball, he won't hit that far. There is a fundamental difference between a first base hit and a second base hit. As expected of Chris Senpai, Miyuki looked at Chris, who had left the strike zone, with admiration in his eyes. It's exactly what I thought. Miyuki believed in the last ball. If Chris was the catcher, the changeup would have been used for the last ball. Otherwise, he can't be so calm and choose to play changeups. The one-year window may affect Chris's body and strength, but his baseball IQ is only strong. First hit. Woo! A smile finally began to appear on the face of the third-year senior. There's someone on the base, and it is the turn of the hit. On the pitcher's mound, the expression on Sawamura's face became extremely serious. Now there are no distracting thoughts in his mind. There are only opponents and only batters. The challenge is coming. Seeing the captain, Yuki Tetsuya, Miyuki's mood also became complicated. If Sita High School had anyone who gave Miyuki a headache, Yuki Tetsuya, the captain of the Sita baseball team, was the first on the list. In Miyuki's words, the Tetsuya was already so strong that he was already in a different realm. Chris Senpai, 33. Chapter 33. The stadium in his mind. The Yuki Tetsuya, standing in the strike zone, gave a very terrifying feeling. When he went to the main base, Tetsuya's state was different altogether. Come on, bring it on. Now, he was like a beast ready to be unleashed, with a very strong aura of danger. You are a senpai. Take it easy. Miyuki Kanzuya was a little flabbergasted. Tetsu-sen didn't look like he was playing against the junior of the same team at all, but it looked like he was playing an official game. Is Sawamura already an equal opponent in the eyes of Tetsu-san? If so, what did Sawamura think? Thinking about it, the catcher turned his attention to his partner. On the pitcher's mound, the pitcher's spirit was very calm, and the calmness was a bit unlike the Sawamura Eijun Miyuki remembered. He stood there like a big mountain, making people look up to the mountain. A mountain is not as sharp as a sword, but its calmness is something that a sword cannot possess. If the momentum of Tetsuya is just terrifying, the current Sawamura's momentum is even more terrifying. After more than 10 years of professional training, once Sawamura gets serious, the sense of domination he brings to others is like a tsunami. Facing the roar of the mountains, the Yuki Tetsuya stood in the strike zone, motionless. He was like a piece of granite, firmly nailed there, not affected by the violent storm, but remained motionless. Strong. This is the feeling Sawamura missed very much. Eijun felt a real threat from Tetsuya, an equally existing danger. This is a strong batter. It is not the seedlings of strong batter, not the potential of a strong batter, but the current Yuki Tetsuya already has the strength of a strong batter. It's too difficult to get strikeout from this batter. With Sawamura's current physical fitness, there is no need to think about it all. His ball speed, ball power, and break are simply not up to the ability to strike him out. Of course, if the catcher and pitcher work well together, strikeouts are not entirely impossible. But the probability is too small and too risky. Sawamura does not want to choose. To win, Sawamura's will was successfully passed on to Miyuki. The pressure is huge. Get rid of Tetsu-san. Fortunately, Sawamura didn't give him the task of striking out at this time. Otherwise, he would probably go on strike. If you simply want to solve the young captain, it is not impossible, although it is very troublesome. But to get rid of these troubles, isn't it the catcher's job? Then the first ball, change up. Seeing Miyuki's match, the cells in Sawamura's body couldn't help beating. When they played against Chris just now, wasn't this the pitch that was hit? A change-up? Isn't it crazy to throw a change-up now? Miyuki's attitude was very firm. Generally speaking, the path of the ball that has just been hit is equivalent to being temporarily sealed. In a short time, it is difficult for the pitcher to throw the ball that has just been hit. It is precisely for this reason that the changeup is the most unexpected to the seniors. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura's eyes were extremely excited. Chris and Miyuki are always so aggressive. Change up. Sawamura threw his first ball with vigor. Whoosh, leg lift, stride, weight shifts, glove shield, arm swings, all of which are the same as on a straight ball. In the face of Sawamura's ball, the batter ended up swinging the bat. Ping. As the bat was about to approach the baseball fled in the direction of the outer corner and was hit and flew out of bounds. Foul. The catcher, Miyuki, let out a long breath. The pitcher, Sawamura, also felt that the ball was a good pitch and showed the changeup perfectly. Otherwise, it is likely to be swept out just now. No ball, one strike, Sawamura is temporarily leading. At this time, Miyuki's second sign came. Normal straight ball, inside corner of ball. The ball needs to be close to the strike zone. On the mound, Sawamura nodded. With his ball control, it's not impossible to do that. Moreover, with ordinary straight balls, he could do it more realistically. The same leg lift, the same arm swing, the same masking action. However, Sawamura's stride was slightly off. Whoosh! The white ball flew towards the top of the plate like a beam. On the strike zone, Yuki Tetsuya faced the ball, and without hesitation, he swung the bat directly. Ping! The hit baseball fell to the ground. Puck! The ball is so fast and with momentum, even if there's a defense, it will be too late to react. A clean swing. The referee, Isashiki, said, "Hit." What? Sawamura looked up at Isashiki in disbelief. The ball just now was probably out of bounds. A foul ball that flew off the outside of the sideline. Miyuki also had a surprised expression on his face. He also believes that the ball is definitely out of bounds. Then when they looked up, they were randomly a little speechless. The sound of the rushing water of the small river came from the riverside to the dam to the outer wall of Seido High School, where there was a sideline. In this way, the ball should be flying close to the line. You can say it is in bounds, and it is okay to say it is out of bounds. There is not even a home plate, and there is no way to judge the line. This ball can be considered foul. Let's continue. The aura on Yuki's body continued to rise, and his eyes were firmly locked on Sawamura. No need, I lost this round. Sawamura's eyes sank. With his more than 10 years of experience, he was so negligent that he even forgot the surrounding environment. In this match, he lost. From a moment he made up his mind that he was going to rely on the defense to get his outs, he had already lost. In this game, there is no defense. Unless it is an obvious high-flying ball, grounding, or all the blows, it is difficult to say that you have one. Let's start the third round, Chris Senpai. Don't you want to exchange information? I also want to rest. After speaking, Sawamura left alone, sat by the small river, and looked at the slowly flowing river without saying a word. Miyuki followed. What's the matter, partner? Sawamura glanced at him and said nothing. You won't be annoyed by the showdown just now, will you? Miyuki asked with a smile. Seeing that Sawamura didn't speak, he took the initiative to say, "Don't be too harsh on yourself. We just made a decision together. Ask yourself in your heart whether the ball was foul. I get it." Sawamura rolled his eyes at him. I'm thinking about the third round. This matchup has benefited Sawamura a lot. To a large extent, he understands his current limits and the direction he needs to work hard in the future. But it's not enough just to gain, and he has to win this match. 2 rounds 1-1. In the third round, Chris Senpai said that he would share his information with the seniors. What would he share? 34. Chapter 34. The Women Gossiping Network. There are many strange things in the world. For example, a person's name has nothing to do with his appearance and personality. When a person is named handsome is not necessarily easy on the eye, and when a person is named calm is not necessarily polite. This is a trait in the Chinese and Japanese language and culture. A person's name has a meaning or at least some form of symbolism. But what's interesting is that a person's nickname can often be a good indicator of the person's character or appearance. A sunny girl with short hair and ears, with the word snow in her name. This word often gives people a pure, beautiful, peaceful, and beautiful impression, but this has nothing to do with a girl named Yuki. Yuki has a nickname, which was given by her friend Kisaki Sakurako. After it came out, she immediately became famous in Seido and became a veritable person as her name, referring to the nickname. This nickname is Ikari-chan, which means little mad. It is conceivable that a girl's nickname is Ikari-chan. So how could she be involved with Tranquility? Yuki's parents are teachers. Her father is a teacher at Sita High School, and her mother is a kindergarten teacher. In this country, the family has the so-called family inheritance. Most of the children raised by a teacher's family have a bit of an intellectual atmosphere. Yuki has avoided the fine genes her parents have passed down to her. This is a girl who is afraid that the world will not be in chaos. Her family lives near Sidu, and on Saturday afternoon, when no one was bothered, the young woman planned to wear fewer clothes at home and relax. Unexpectedly, she saw an amazing scene downstairs by the river. Several third-grade seniors went to bully first-grade juniors. How could someone with such a strong sense of justice like Yuki endure it, seeing her kohai being bullied? So she made a special call to invite her friends to come and watch. She really couldn't bear to see it by herself, so she planned to ask someone to watch it together. After telling Kusaki Sakurako, Yuki was overwhelmed listening to Kusaki Sakurako's impatient act on the phone. So much fun. Originally, she only wanted to tell Sakurako, but after thinking about it, it seemed like a waste. Especially seeing Sakurako's nervousness, Yuki even thought that she couldn't enjoy herself alone, so she had to ask her good friend to enjoy it together. A person like Ikari-chan will have nothing to say in being tactful. But at Sidu High School, from the third-year girls to the first-year schoolgirls who just entered the school, most of them were her acquaintances. In the society of Sidu, this yukine position is as hardened as iron. It was so energetic that this yukine couldn't bear to waste it, so she quickly called all the girls who had a crush on Sidu High School baseball players and told them to come and watch the fun together. Hey, Takako-chan, come on. Something big happened to your baseball club. What? You do not know? I'll tell you. You must never tell anyone that the third year is by the river in our school, bullying a kohai. Who is being bullied? Who else, of course? It is Sawamura-kun, poor Sawamura-kun, with thin skin and tender meat. How can he bear it? You want to come? Hurry up. If you don't come, you won't see the last act. The Ikari-chan opened her mouth, and the ground shook. After processing and deliberation, the words finally came out of the mouth of Yuki, and they had nothing to do with the truth. Takako is the manager of the baseball club in the third year of Sidu High School. When she heard that the third grade was besieging Sawamura by the river, she hurriedly called the captain, Yuki Tetsuya, but unfortunately, she didn't get through. At this time, he was concentrating on his duel with Sawamura, and there was time to answer the phone there. Then Takako informed the vice captain Isashiki Jun, but there was still no news. Several third graders can talk and count, and none of them answered the phone. She finally got on the phone with Tampa. Tampa just rested for today and went back to his room. What to do? Although she didn't want to make things worse, Takako was even more afraid of what would happen if that bad man hurt Sawamura. Although Sidu's previous record on this kind of accident has always been very good, there are hundreds of people, which means all kinds of people. No one dare to say that Sidu did not have bad-minded people. If there was an emergency, Sidu wouldn't have time to cry. In the baseball club, it is not uncommon for violent incidents to occur. There are even teams that have won the right to play in Koshien, but they're disqualified because of violent incidents. Especially recently, Furuya Satoru and Sawamura Eijun were promoted out of the ordinary, and the third grade was not without complaints. Women are always more emotional. They can't understand the world where men's strength is respected. They don't know that the third graders of Sidu are more welcoming to Furuya Satoru and Sawamura Eijun than jealous. Nothing is more important than the summer competition than Koshien. Even if they can't join the first string, most of them are sincerely happy when they see the team is good. After all, this is the team they've been working for 3 years. The most important thing is that most of the third-year players also know how much weight they have after 3 years of big waves. If they are freshmen or hopeful second-year students, they are far from the open-minded of third-year students. For a time, Takako had mixed feelings in his heart. She is also not at school at this time. It is very far away from the school, and it will take at least 2 hours to get there. But now the situation is critical, let alone 2 hours. Even if it is half an hour or 10 minutes, things are likely to be out of control. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Takako gritted his teeth and called Major Oda, who was the best talking among the three supervisors. After receiving the call, Oda scratched his ears and cheeks anxiously. But what could he do? The third-year players have gradually matured and are about to retire. It is hard to say whether the words of the manager can stop these players who have lost control of their emotions. In a hurry, Oda notified Kataoka. On Saturday, the players of the first string were resting because the game had just ended. The second and third armies are scrambling to practice pitching and various strength training in the pitching machine. Kataoka himself was thinking about the finals and the arrangements for the Kanto tournament after that. Supervisor, something is bad. At this time, Major Oda rushed in and told Kataoka the news he had just received. By the small river next to the school, the third grades are beating Sawamura. The third-year player was brought up by Kataoka. Of course, he did not believe that his disciple would do such an outrageous thing. But everyone is a young man with strong vigor. If you want to quarrel, you can't control it, and it's not impossible. Go and see. Kataoka stood up and went to the river next to the school with Oda. At this time, Sawamura and the others didn't know. Because of the women gossiping network, TM, the private duel they originally planned to hide from Kataoka, will be in the school gossiping newspaper. The second and third round were separated by a small half-hour break. The purpose was to allow the third graders to exchange information with each other and for Sawamura to rest. It's time to start. With that said, just when Chris is about to change the catcher's equipment. Wait a moment. A voice sounded. 35, Chapter 35. Round 3, wait a moment. Just when Chris was about to put on the catcher clothes, Sawamura took the initiative to stop him. What's wrong? The lineup arrangement was agreed upon before. What does Sawamura mean when he asks a question at this time? Chris's mood is conflicted. Could it be that he was hated by Sawamura? Although the two got along well, the young pitcher has always been more enthusiastic and proactive. But to be honest, the two have not been dealing with each other for a long time, and Chris doesn't know much about Sawamura. Sure show, Sawamura first nodded respectfully to Chris, and then said, "The information you just told them should be what you observed and what I told you when I was practicing." That's right. Chris does not deny this. He vaguely knew what Sawamura wanted to do in this duel. Sawamura needs a good opponent to verify his current strengths and weaknesses. But a duel is never a fair one-on-one match. When Sawamura plays, he is facing a whole team's lineup and unescapable intelligence network. So Chris wanted to see Sawamura's strength after his intelligence was leaked. I understand your painstaking efforts, but since you are the one who collects intelligence and formulates tactics, it is inappropriate for you to be my catcher. The other party's tactics are designated by you. So what's the point of being a catcher? After speaking, Sawamura turned to look at Miyuki. Partner, would you like to spend more time with me? Ugh. Miyuki's eyes narrowed into a slit. In the previous fight, he was unwilling to lose. This time it's a fair fight. Hearing Sawamura's answer, Chris nodded in satisfaction. That's right, he formulated the attacking tactics, and then he cracked it by himself, which seemed unfair to the attacking party. Well, I'll be the referee. In this game, Chris did not plan to play directly. He replaced Isashiki Jun as the referee. Hey, I just became a referee, and I was pretty good, Isashiki said sternly. In fact, for the ball just now, he also knew that there was a big difference between out of bounds and inbounds. But you really can't blame him. There is no line. How does he determine whether it is inbounds or out of bounds? It is not an obvious foul ball, although he thought so in his heart. Looking at the eyes of Chris, Miyuki, and Sawamura, he was feeling a bit guilty. These bastards, did they realize that? In the third round, the lineup arrangements for the third grade have already been determined. The first one is still Kaminato Ryosuke. The second one is Yuki Tetsuya. And the third one is Masuko Toru. Seeing Ryosuke Kaminato walking into the strike zone, Miyuki's eyes sank. This is the third time that Sawamura has played against Ryosuke Kaminato. Such a fight is very dangerous. After Ryosuke is Tetsu-san. To be able to face off with all his heart, Ryosuke cannot be allowed to get a hit no matter what, and he has to find a way to deal with him. Thinking about it, Miyuki gave Sawamura a sign. On the mound, Sawamura nodded, then pitched. In Ryosuke's mind, He recalled the information that Chris told him. Among all the balls Sawamura has now, the one that is most certain to take you down is the straight ball. With such speed and power, even if the ball position is sweeter with your strength, it is difficult to hit the ball well. In addition to the straight fastball, Sawamura's other ball paths can be entangled with based on your hitting skills. To avoid such a situation, they will not choose to throw more balls. Therefore, on the decisive ball must be a straight. So, let's let the first 2 balls go and hit a straight ball with the third. But didn't you say it's hard for me to hit a straight? Yeah, it's hard for you to hit well, but you can get that ball out of bounds. As long as you can accurately aim under the baseball and swing the bat. Let the ball rub your bat and fly back. Strike. After 2 consecutive balls without swinging, Miyuki gave Sawamura the signal for a straight fastball on the third ball. On the mound, Sawamura nodded, then pitched. Ping! This time, Kaminado swung the bat, and after the ball was hit, it rubbed the bat and flew into the river. The catcher and the pitcher both looked very ugly. Again, just like in Chris's case, the last pitch, Ryosuke, was aiming at the straight fastball pitch. You used a straight fastball as the decisive ball because it was difficult for me to hit this ball. The plan is really good. Kaminado Ryosuke bluntly mocked. Then I don't know, will the next ball be a straight fastball? Guess I'm still aiming for a straight fastball. Ryosuke turned his head with a smile, looked at Miyuki, and said, "Referee, he is provocative." Seeing Ryosuke like this, Miyuki directly complained. Before Chris could say anything, Kaminado's expression became weird. It was like he wanted to hit someone. "Okay, don't make trouble, play well." Chris smiled helplessly and said. The mutual confrontation ended, but Miyuki was in a very bad mood. Although he leads with 2 strikes, it may not be easy for him to deal with Ryosuke Kaminado. He has always been at a disadvantage in the battle of wits with Chris, which made Miyuki very depressed. He should know more about the data of third-year batters. But why does he seem to be restricted everywhere? Time. At this time, Miyuki saw Sawamura's signal for a timeout. He immediately called a timeout and ran up to the pitching mound. What's wrong? Is it difficult? Sawamura didn't answer Miyuki's question, but instead asked back. The catcher was taken aback for a while and looked at the pitcher in confusion. Sawamura said softly, "It's because you get along normally that you understand the batter's strength better, and you're even more concerned about Ryosuke Senpai's skills and Chris Senpai's wits. Because you can't think of how to restrain them effectively, and even strike them out. And now in our situation, getting outs by defending is inappropriate." Miyuki looked at Sawamura in disbelief. He didn't expect that Sawamura would understand his thoughts so well. In the past, he did not think that Sawamura was such a wise person. "How do you know?" Sawamura nodded and said frankly, "Because I am in the same situation too." Miyuki was at a loss for words. Sawamura, like him, was troubled and could not do anything about it. Although I can't think of a 100% solution to the batting method and pitch, but the game is like that. For the 1% chance and 99% effort, sometimes it's useless to think too much. It's better to do it. From now on, do it step by step. He will entangle as he likes, and we will always find an opportunity. Just when Miyuki thought that Sawamura couldn't think of a way, he heard such words. That's right, the flaws are found, and it doesn't mean that they haven't been found before. Okay, then let's have a good duel with the senpais of the third year. 36, Chapter 36, Unlock. The duel continued, with no ball, 2 strikes. At this time, Miyuki had completely calmed down and planned to fight steadily, find the flaws of Kaminado Ryosuke, and then kill him with 1 hit. But he didn't know that while he was on the pitching mound, Chris, who was the referee, was also giving Kaminado a hint. The next ball, it's almost there. There was a smile on Ryosuke's face, and he could hardly see his eyes when he smiled. I think so too. Competing against a pitcher like Sawamura with several weapons in his hands, entanglement is very dangerous. Even if Ryosuke was confident in his swing skills, he wouldn't do it rashly. Sawamura and Miyuki were thinking about how to get a strikeout or a clear goofy and grounder. Only then can they say that they have solved their opponents. And Ryosuke thought very simply, he only hit base when he hit the ball solidly. So when Miyuki came back, Ryosuke Kaminado held his bat short, aimed at the first pitch Sawamura threw, and was ready to play. Of course, with his acting skills, Miyuki couldn't see any flaws. With 2 strikes, he was chased, and as long as the ball entered the strike zone, Ryosuke Kaminado had to swing. The next ball, a moving ball to the inner corner, the ball path should be high. In this position, the batter is still not very comfortable at swinging, and the ball is also likely to be a slow fly high ball. On the pitcher mound, Sawamura nodded slightly and then pitched. Whoosh! Seeing the pitcher throwing the ball, Kaminado also swings the bat decisively. His swing is completely a natural reaction of his body, and his brain has no thoughts at all. Ping! The white ball was hit, landed roughly between first and second base, and bounced off the dam. Chris nodded hit. There's nothing wrong with the ball being hit. The catcher's face was a little ugly, and Ryosuke Kaminado didn't even think about getting entangled in the ball just now. If he had known earlier, he would have killed Ryosuke Kaminado with a straight fastball. It's a pity that in this world, there is no if, when he thinks Kaminado Ryosuke will choose to entangle. The pitcher can't keep throwing straight fastballs. That kind of ball is too burdensome for the pitcher's fingers. If this is not the case, Sawamura can completely throw all the straight balls that he wants to throw and throw them all straight fastballs. In that case, Sawamura's pitching ability will be improved to a higher level. No matter how much Sawamura and Miyuki didn't want a batter to hit before they faced Tetsu-san, the current situation is still the same. No one out, 1 hit lost. In this situation, they must fight to the death. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura's fighting spirit continued, and the catcher, Miyuki, is also very motivated. It was almost the same situation as the previous round, so both of them were preoccupied with preparations to fight the captain in a head-to-head battle. Miyuki pondered for a while and gave the young pitcher the signal for the first ball. On the edge of the outside corner, straight fastball. Sawamura has a few ball paths that can suppress Yuki Tetsuya 100%. If you want to solve him, the best way is to mix the pitches to disrupt Yuki's attention. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura frowned subconsciously. He had an ominous premonition, but he could tell him why he couldn't tell. He shook his head intentionally, but he felt that it was meaningless to shake his head. No matter what kind of pitch Miyuki calls, the Yuki Tetsuya has the possibility of hitting. As long as they put the ball in the strike zone, they can't avoid that risk. In this way, we can only use the ball to decide the outcome directly. Let's see if the swing that the captain of Sidu has honed for 3 years is better, or if Sawamura Eijun's pitching is better. After realizing this, Eijun let out a sigh of relief, and then the whole person became fierce again. Judging from the momentum of the pitcher and batter alone, Sawamura was still under pressure to form. If you want, come on. Whoosh! White ball, flying to the outside corner. In the strike zone, while the ball was coming close, Yuki Tetsuya didn't move at all. At this time, the baseball was constantly approaching the batter's reach. Coming on the strike zone, the statue-like Yuki suddenly came to life. In his eyes, apart from the flying white ball, there was nothing else. It's now. Seeing the baseball approach, Yuki Tetsuya swings like a thunderbolt. Fast, faster than Sawamura's pitch, unbelievably fast. Ping! The small white ball was hit, passed through the back of Sawamura, smashed hard on the dam, and then embedded in the mound of the dam. 1 swing, 1 hit. 3rd round, 3rd grade win. This neat result caught people off guard. Sawamura, who had looked like a demon before in the head of the 3rd year, disappeared after this swing. Miyuki, the catcher, looked at the Yuki Tetsuya in shock. That swing just now was amazing. Should I say as expected of the captain? Sawamura Eijun lost, with sheer power. I don't know if that guy's confidence was hit. Miyuki turned to look at Eijun on the pitcher's mound, thinking maliciously in his heart. Although Sawamura is a stinky bastard, there is nothing wrong with accepting the baptism of the senior. But Miyuki was still upset that his ball was hit so badly. The pitch that Sawamura threw was not bad. But baseball is like that. Even if you pitch well, the ball can still be hit. It's not like just because you play well, you'll get the outs you want. This is the truth. Chris, the referee, also looked at Sawamura worriedly. I don't know if he was okay or not. Sawamura's experience is smooth until now. If he got hit bad, TSK, it's amazing. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura already fully knew his current strength, his current shortcomings, and the information that Chris had leaked. Sure enough, if I want to lead Cebu into Koshian or even dominate the country, it is not enough to rely on the current level of pitching. Time to develop some real breaking balls. Now Sawamura is pitching, although there are a lot of pitches, but generally based on the straight ball system, which is why Kaminato Ryosuke and Yuki Tetsuya can accurately capture his pitching. Among the powerhouses in high school, there may not be many batters like Tetsu-san, but they will never be absent. If you want to fight against these monsters, it is not enough to rely on the straight ball system. Start the fourth round. Miyuki-senpai, please come over here, I have something to test. Sawamura made up his mind to unlock a real breaking balls. Aga. In this regard, Masuko Toru is very dissatisfied with the result. He hasn't played yet. How come the battle is over? On the other side, Ikari-chan news started to spread, and the news reached Kataoka, which took time. When Sawamura and the others were about to start the fourth round, Kataoka just pushed open the door of the office, ready to unleash hell on the troublemakers. 37. Chapter 37. New Breaking Ball. Sawamura and Miyuki deliberately hid aside to discuss a new tactic. There is a bridge in the middle of the river, and below the bridge is the place where the players of the second string often come to practice swinging at night. Sawamura and Miyuki bypassed the bridge and blocked the sight of several third-year seniors by the cover of the bridge. A secret weapon? Miyuki was shrewd, seeing that Sawamura deliberately led him to such a place, where he didn't know that Sawamura wanted to experiment with a new pitch. On this side, Sawamura and Miyuki were experimenting with a new pitch. On the other side, Isashiki Jun's eyes never left the bridge, as if he could cross the bridge and see Sawamura throw the ball. Now training, do you think it will help you? What he said was heartless. If it's someone else, he can't say that. Breaking ball is not a cabbage sold at stall at the market. Anyone else can talk as much as they want. But if it is Sawamura, he really can't tell. Now there are 5 or 6 types of courses that Sawamura can use. How do you know that he will pull another one of his ass suddenly? I don't think so at the moment, but if it's Sawamura, maybe he has a breaking ball that he hasn't used before, and I can't say for sure. Chris's words were unanimously accepted by several players in the 3rd grade. To be honest, Chris is indeed Sawamura's master, and he knows Sawamura. Sawamura didn't even think about improvising a breaking ball. What he wanted to come up with now was a breaking ball that he had already mastered. Of course, it's from his past life, the other side of the bridge. Snap! After practicing a few balls, Miyuki sincerely gave Sawamura a thumbs up. Every time you change the grip, there's a clear break of the ball's path. I don't know if your talent is the first of its kind, but you're the only one I know who can do that. Although he knows that Sawamura has talent at the breaking ball with different breaks, this talent also has different levels due to the difference between the break of the ball and the power of the ball. For someone like Sawamura who throws breaking balls, Miyuki has never heard of it. If the pitcher talent of the breaking balls is divided into ranks, Sawamura, your talent is the strongest. You don't need to say these meaningless flattery words. Just talk about the breaking ball just now. Do you think it could be used? Sawamura doesn't have time to talk to Miyuki here. He is very eager to fight with the 3rd-year senior. He wanted to know if the course he had just used could come in handy against the 3rd-year seniors. To be honest, you haven't practiced this kind of ball at all. Since you haven't practiced it, I'm afraid it will be difficult to come in handy. Miyuki pondered. Fortunately, if you get a strike, you can still put the fight into the strike zone. In this way, if you play against the 3rd grade, you could temporarily play a bluff. Here is an explanation of what kind of breaking ball that can be called practiced and what kind of breaking ball that can't be called practiced. The so-called practice breaking ball means that the ball thrown out must be stable. That is to say, if you want this ball to go to the strike zone and get the strike count, it will be able to reach the strike zone and get the strike count. There's also the break of the ball itself. It must be sharp enough, it cannot be easily targeted, and the weak pitch will be swept out by the batters. To put it bluntly, his ball handling and pitching itself need to be threatening. Such a breaking ball can come in handy in a formal duel. Sawamura's breaking ball had been practiced many times in his previous life, but now he is throwing it again. The power of the ball itself is enough. But the ball control must be re-honed before you can use it publicly. After all, Sawamura's current physical fitness, finger length, height, and muscle strength are vastly different from those in his previous life. This requires a lot of practice and constant tuning. Of course, because he has the experience and foundation of the previous life, this process must be much faster than the previous life. But no matter how fast you are, it has a process after all, and Sawamura can't master the new breaking ball in just 10 minutes. Even if he comes out with a new pitch now, possession of the ball is still a big problem. Aside from aiming near the center, he has a hard time getting the ball into the strike zone. That's why Miyuki said that Sawamura's new breaking ball can only play a bluffing role. Just a bluff is okay. There are only so many weapons that can be used now. Next, we should think about how to use the weapons we have on hand to deal with our opponents. Boy, that's enough. After the special training for the two of them to barely crawl, they came out with Isashiki Jun's impatient roar. Let's start. It's already the 4th round, and there's not much to say. Everyone is lined up and ready to play. The third-year seniors. First was Kaminado Ryosuke. The second is Takigawa Krisyu, and he is third Yuki Tetsuya. All three of them had hit Sawamura's ball before, and now is a great opportunity for the three of them to play. These seniors in the 3rd grade have no idea how to be polite to the Kohai. They made it clear that they were going to chase after the victory. In the previous 3 rounds, Sawamura trailed by 2:1. If he wins the 4th round, according to everyone's previous agreement, Sawamura can pitch another round. If he loses again this round, he will be completely defeated 3:1. As far as the situation is concerned, Sawamura has now been forced into the corner, and he can only move forward, not retreat. Strike, ping, foul, 2 balls, just 2 balls. Sawamura scored 2 strikes, chasing Kaminado, but this didn't make the battery relax at all. Judging from Ryosuke's previous at-bat, whether he chose to entangle or choose the next ball to win at this time, there is no way to know. Miyuki believes that continuing to entangle with Kaminado Ryosuke will only increase Sawamura's pitching numbers, waste time, and leak information without any substantial meaning. If the situation is like this, let's start. Let the senpais come to see the latest breaking ball. Miyuki, the catcher, gave Sawamura a signal. On the pitching mound, Sawamura nodded silently, thinking that it was time to throw a new pitch. Leg raise, step, block, swing arm, pitch. No matter what ball he throws, Sawamura's movements are standard like a robot, and you can't see any flaws in his movements at all. In this regard, as an opponent, Kaminado Ryosuke is also used to it. He didn't bother about Sawamura's movements, but patiently waited for Sawamura's ball to come. Coming, because he couldn't see where the ball was released. The ball came very suddenly and very quickly. Fortunately, Ryosuke was mentally prepared, so he didn't panic. When he saw the ball coming, he didn't hesitate to swing the bat. The ball is in the zone. He will not let it go no matter what. The bat was swung out, and he was about to hit the ball, but the ball miraculously escaped. Right in front of Kaminado Ryosuke, it fled to the outer corner and sank to a certain extent. With such a sudden change, Kaminado Ryosuke was caught off guard, and his swing failed. Snap! Strike, batter out. Just as the 3rd-year senior thought, Sawamura's new breaking ball appeared. 38. Chapter 38. The coach is here. Strike, batter out. When they saw this out, everyone at the scene was a little stunned. The ball that Sawamura threw just now was too clear. It was different from all previous pitches by Sawamura. You didn't need to stand in the batting area to watch it. You could see the movement of the baseball when you looked at it from the side. It was a breaking ball that kept escaping from the center path to the outer corner, and it also fell to a certain extent. It's hard to give this ball a name just from the changes in the ball's course. Isn't like a slider, isn't like a curveball, and it's kind of like an upside-down sinker, if you have to say it, and the sinker generally falls to the batter's feet before entering the strike zone. And this ball has almost the same trajectory, flying in the opposite direction to the outer corner. This is troublesome. After seeing this ball, Ryosuke Kaminado had a hunch that their next situation would be very difficult. Entering the plate, the ball that quickly fled to the outer corner was too difficult to hit. It is very difficult to hit such a breaking ball perfectly. Of course, it's not the scariest. If you want to aim at this ball, Chris and Tetsu may not be able to hit it. The problem is, if you don't aim for this pitch, Sawamura would throw it. He also has straight balls, and straight balls in many variations. In this way, you can only aim for one kind of ball to swing the bat. And next to the straight ball is still the breaking ball just now. The probability is 50% each. There are still two people in the third grade, Chris and Tetsu. In terms of probability, the probability of the two of them being able to guess consecutively is only 1/4, and one of the two guesses is 1/2. This is not a regular game. In a regular game, with a single hit, Sita hopes to cooperate to score points. But now one hit means they lose. These thoughts passed Ryosuke Kaminado's mind in an instant, and his face became complicated. With such a large change in the ball's course, if you aim for the ball of the straight ball and swing, it is impossible to hit. If you bite the bullet and aim for the breaking ball like that, you can't even think about Sawamura's straight ball. Although it is only a breaking ball, such a breaking ball is enough for Sawamura's pitch to evolve as a whole. Sawamura Eijun, who is already terrifying, has become even more terrifying now. Be careful. Watching Chris walk into the strike zone, Ryosuke said in a low voice. I know. Chris's face became serious. He had an advantage against Sawamura before. He knew Eijun clearly, and combined with Miyuki's character and Chris's guesses, it was not difficult to guess the pitcher's ball path. But now that a new change ball has been added, it's hard to say. The most important thing is that he can't judge the status of this breaking ball in Sawamura and Miyuki's minds. If you want to guess the opponent's ball, in addition to abiding by the general rules, there's another very important rule. That is, what kind of ball is the opponent's pitcher is most confident in pitching? When Miyuki guesses someone else's ball, why does he like to play the opponent's tiebreaker? The reason is very simple. The opponent's decisive ball must be the opponent's most confident ball path. When the number of strikes is most needed, the opponent has the highest probability of making the decisive ball. In this way, as long as you can hit the opponent's decisive ball, you will naturally have a high probability of guessing the path of the ball. Like the breaking ball that Sawamura just used, the break is so sharp, it's amazing. For an average pitcher, Sawamura's breaking ball can be used as a winning shot. But if the opponent is Sawamura Eijun, he can't be measured by a normal pitcher standard. So if Chris wants to guess Miyuki's lead, he must understand what weight this ball occupies in Miyuki and Sawamura's minds. Is the pitch very important? Or the winning shot? Chris pondered for a while and thought that there was not much hope for it being the winning shot. Before, Sawamura specially asked Miyuki to practice throwing. This ball should be the result of their practice just now. Miyuki looks bold on the surface, but he is very regular when he matches the ball. He belongs to the most orthodox kind of catcher. It's hard to imagine that such a catcher would use the ball they just practiced as a winning shot. At least if it was Chris himself, Chris would never do this. So this ball will not be used as the winning ball. But since Sawamura and Miyuki took it out for practice, this must be a very important way for them to match the ball next. Then it's not the first ball, it's the second ball, and the breaking ball will fly over. Chris believes that Sawamura and Miyuki want to better show the power of this breaking ball. Then they'll have to throw one in the first ball or the second. The batter has 3 chances to bet the ball. Then bet on the latest breaking ball. Made up his mind, Chris waited patiently for the ball. Strike. Strike 2. 2 strikes in a row. The breaking ball Chris imagined did not come. Naturally, Chris, who was focused on aiming at the breaking ball, couldn't swing the bat. The count is 0 balls, 2 strikes. Chris was chased. At this time, Chris is not without doubts about his previous judgment, but it is not advisable to temporarily change his established strategy. He could only go all the way to black, betting the last ball on Sawamura's latest breaking ball. Snap. Strike. Batter out. Until the end, Sawamura's new breaking ball did not come. In the last ball, although Chris swung his bat, how could he hit the moving ball to the inner corner of Sawamura when he was aiming at the breaking ball? In this turn, it was not wrong for Chris to lose. A batter who likes to guess to hit the ball will have a hard time hitting the ball once the data is wrong. The data collected by Chris was wrong. He misestimated the position of the newest breaking ball in Miyuki and Sawamura's minds. That's just a bluff ball. It's enough to scare people. How can it be used as a key ball or even a decisive ball? It was this small mistake that allowed Sawamura to strike out Chris, and it was considered revenge for the previous one. With 2 strikeouts, the only batter left was the one and only Yuki Tetsuya. As long as he can't hit a home run, Sawamura wins this game. On a bluff with a forkball. Yes, you read that right. That ball that looks very weird and unreasonable to others. But for Sawamura, it's just a natural variation of throwing with the ball between two fingers. This is Sawamura's forkball, also known as the car ball change. In the fourth round, the last duel. Sawamura Eijun versus Yuki Tetsuya. The two had just taken their position, ready to confront each other. On the dam surrounding the small river beach, two middle-aged figures appeared. Kataoka, the supervisor of the Seto High School Baseball Club, arrived at the scene. 39. Chapter 39. Intuition. Sawamura challenged the third year's lineup of the fourth round. And using the new breaking ball, Sawamura disrupted the rhythm of Chris and Kaminato, striking out both of them. In the eyes of these seniors in the third grade, this is a bit incredible. Originally, in the third round, Chris and Tatsuya hit consecutive hits, and they thought that Sawamura was out of his skills. Unexpectedly, in the fourth round, he was able to turn the table over. This kid is too terrifying. He is giving me goosebumps, Isashiki murmured in dissatisfaction. Next to him, Masuko Toru resisted the urge to roll his eyes. What qualifications does Isashiki have to be dissatisfied? He should be dissatisfied, okay? Until now, Isashiki has finally played against Sawamura. What about him? Finally got his turn in the third round, but the round was over without waiting for him to play. Among these people, he had never played against Sawamura. Who is the one who should be annoyed? Ryosuke narrowed his eyes and looked at Isashiki and Masuko, thinking in his mind. These third-year players are very well prepared for this heads-up duel. At first, Sawamura thought he would throw a moving ball, but he hasn't thrown a single one yet. Thanks to their well-prepared preparations, they even called Masuko, who has outstanding striking power, but he didn't throw any. Sawamura has given up on the ambiguous winning shot. The duel 2 years ago was on the field, and the balls played could determine the position. Some moving balls and tricky balls could be used. Now, there was no field or line. The referee, Isashiki, was suspected of pulling a game to their side. This blocked Sawamura's moving ball and ball control effects to a certain extent, so he could only choose a head-to-head way to duel. But even so, Sawamura still pitched well, and it could be said that he is evenly matched with the third grade. This little guy, as a pitcher, is probably a little stronger than Tampa in the best state. Although he doesn't want to admit it, Ryosuke Kaminato knows that this is the truth. It is no wonder that Coach Kataoka and Takashima Rei regarded Sawamura as a treasure. For Seto, who lacked good pitchers, the value of Sawamura is enormous. While Ryosuke was lost in thought, the duel between Sawamura and Tetsuya began. Facing Yuki Tetsuya, Miyuki knew that if the pitching was not good, the situation was likely to be overturned even if it was very favorable for them now. Therefore, he must be careful with each call. The first ball, the forkball. After thinking for a while, Miyuki still thinks that right now, it is better to use a forkball first. A forkball is useless when dealing with Chris. The impression that the forkball is not a core pitch has probably been left in the mind of the senior. To break this, throwing a forkball is necessary. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura nodded slightly. He also agreed with Miyuki's idea that right now, a forkball to disrupt the batter was necessary. And with such a ball, the first pitch is relatively safe. From the point of view of the captain, the probability that he first observes a ball and then swings the bat is much higher than the probability of swinging the bat directly. Even if he made up his mind to swing the bat on the first ball, Chris had been dealt with by straight balls in a row before, and the probability of him aiming for the straight ball was far greater than the probability of aiming for the forkball. From a psychological point of view, the 3 balls in front of you are all straight balls, and for batters who guess the next ball, more than 80% of them will choose straight balls. The probability of both is 50%, which is the same as tossing a coin. Chris chose the breaking ball to hit, which can also be explained by the psychology of coin tossing. You're tossing coins continuously. The previous result is the key point. If you have chosen the heads before, you can understand the difference from the next one. Is the case that you have selected one side in advance. Even if the first 2 are tails, you also think that the next one must be heads. At least the probability of heads is greater than the probability of tails. The probability of both is the same, it's half and half. Miyuki and Sawamura have not studied psychology systematically, but the duel between the battery and the batter is itself a lot of psychological competition. One of the two has excellent talent, and the other is a regressed cheater and has been battle-hardened. Although they may not be able to explain the theory as clearly as psychologists, it is no problem for them to use it. When you're in a battery and your mind sinks, the power of your pitching will naturally become higher. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura raised his legs, made a stride, covered with mitt, and pitched the ball. Whoosh! Throwing the ball like a laser beam, constantly approaching the plate. On the strike zone, Tetsu's eyes were dignified and firm, and he decisively waved his bat. He aimed the first ball, the bat whistled like lightning. And when Sawamura's pitch approached home plate, it suddenly seemed to be pushed by a mysterious force and began to slide to the outer corner. And at the same time, it sank to a certain extent. You don't need to be in the strike zone. You can clearly see the movement of the baseball just by looking at it from enough distance. Just as the baseball was about to leave, a thunder-like bat roared and hit the baseball, sending the small white ball flying far away. Ping! The baseball fell on the dam and was firmly embedded in the soil of the dam side. In the position of the referee, Chris glanced at the ball and announced foul. Sawamura's pitch moved to the outside corner, so when the bat hit the baseball bounced away and became a foul. This ball is different from the previous one. This one is off angle, and it is impossible to count a hit. On the strike zone, Tetsuya retracted his bat, his eyes still locked on Sawamura. The breaking ball, just now, was not so easy to hit. Tetsuya guessed right, but for the first time facing Sawamura's forkball, he could only barely knock the ball out of the line and didn't make it into the field. The catcher, Miyuki, glanced at the captain in surprise and complained wildly in his mind. Did he guess this? Or it is just his intuition? Yuki Tetsuya is not the guessing type. In other words, he never guessed the ball and just wanted to hit all the balls that came over. He just intuitively thought that Sawamura's ball should be a breaking ball. Without any reason, without any basis, the result was a swing, and he guessed correctly, but unfortunately did not fly to the field. Then let's not waste this ball. Miyuki let out a long sigh and had already sorted out the countermeasures for Tetsu in his mind. Kataoka and Oda arrived at the dam almost half a minute ago, and just as they were about to say something, they saw Yuki Tetsuya and Sawamura Eijun duel. People are all curious, and supervisors and managers are not exempt. They stopped to observe subconsciously. Then, they saw Sawamura's forkball. President Oda opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. 40. Chapter 40. Continue. When they came to the river, Kataoka and Oda saw the situation at the scene. Seeing that it was just a normal duel, the stone in the hearts of the two fell to the ground. Of course, right? How could their students be so uncivilized? But immediately following, the eyes of the two were attracted by the showdown on the scene. Sawamura Eijun versus Yuki Tetsuya. This duel, just the name of the two, is striking enough. So exciting. Especially seeing Sawamura throwing a new breaking ball. Oda was even more excited. Sidhu's pitching lineup seems to be nothing to worry about now. Wait a minute, that's not right. How could the two of them play together? As soon as this thought came to mind, the cold sweat on Oda's forehead broke down. If one breaks the other and collapses, won't Sidhu just suffer? He opened his mouth, then said nothing. Suddenly, Oda felt wrong. In his mind, has Sawamura already become such an existence? The No Kings fight. Although he stubbornly refused to admit it, in Minister Oda's mind, Sawamura seemed to be the strongest pitcher at Sita High School. Besides, the fact that the No Kings fight is also an unspoken rule. Since it is an unspoken rule, it cannot be said on the surface. After you open your mouth, what will he say? Saying it was not allowed was equivalent to admitting Sawamura's status now in front of the third grade. Allow. When they are free to play against, and they're willing to practice more, you can't control it. Superintendent. With no solution in his mind, President Oda turned to look at Kataoka. Kataoka didn't say anything. He just stepped forward and came in front of everyone. As he approached, the faces of several third-year seniors became complex one by one. The smile on Kaminado's face turned into a wry smile. nailed in his place. His whole body seems to be frozen and does not move anywhere. Isashiki's face was as if he was talking shit about people behind their backs and suddenly met them face to face. The four players, pitcher, batter, catcher, referee, in the duel on the field were originally immersed in the duel, but at this time they also discovered that the atmosphere was wrong. There was embarrassment in Chris's eyes. Opus. Miyuki stood up from the position of the catcher, rubbing his head in embarrassment and smirking. Yuki also lowered his head in guilt. As the captain, he felt very guilty for being so self-willed. In the pitcher's mound, Sawamura was also embarrassed. "Why is he here?" asked, feeling strange in his mind. Kataoka didn't speak and just looked at them one by one. All the people he was staring at lowered their heads and stopped talking, although they were not so scared, let alone practice against each other in private. Even if a few people gathered together to drink heavily, Kataoka would not send everyone off the scene. The first law is not to blame the crowd, and if one of these people is sent off to the second string, then the Sidu will be over. When Sidu team member makes a mistake, the biggest punishment is to demote them to the next string. Kataoka has never actively forced any player to resign. Another punishment is to make them have a different training menu or long running for a long time. Miyuki and the others didn't care too much. Nevertheless, even if they knew this, they still felt guilty when they saw Kataoka's eyes. After a while, Kataoka asked, "Who can tell me what is going on?" They looked at each other, and then everyone looked at one person. "Yuki, it's okay to pretend to be dumb. Isn't the captain here? After all, why do they have a captain if not for this?" Kataoka asked Tetsu directly. "Sorry." Tetsu directly apologizes. Kataoka glanced at him, no longer holding on, and looked at the others. When he looked at Sawamura, he saw Sawamura's indifferent eyes. Sawamura, who was named, raised his head in confusion. At this time, no matter from which aspect, it is not up to him, right? There are captains, main catchers, and important staff, and the rest are seniors. Whether it is by rank or size, it's not his turn. Although he was surprised, Sawamura's response was not slow. "Yes, coach." Sawamura responded to Kataoka very politely. Although he was confused, there was not much anxiety in Sawamura's eyes. "What happened?" Kataoka asked directly. Sawamura was stunned for a moment, and then said calmly, "I'm getting along with the senpais. Let them see my pitching and see if there's a problem. He speaks the truth." Kataoka's eyes sank, and then he turned to look at them. The No Kings Fight rule. Sawamura is a freshman and probably does not know this kind of rule. But wouldn't they, the seniors, know it? The main pitchers and super strong batters of the same team, on the eve of the Kano tournament. How could they have a serious duel like this? Seeing Kataoka's eyes, Chris became even more ashamed. Isashiki stared at Sawamura with a very bad look. How could this bastard pretend to be innocent? Didn't he make the rules and pick the place? Shameless. Kaminato Ryosuke looked at Sawamura with the same eyes. Sawamura looked at the seniors looking at him, showing a very kind smile. I know nothing. He kept hypnotizing himself. The rules and results of the competition. Kataoka soon discovered the tricks, and Isashiki's annoyed expression could not be concealed. He didn't say his thoughts, and he directly asked the result. At this time, Chris took the initiative to tell everything about it. In the first round, Kaminato, Isashiki, and Tetsuya went up and down 3 times, and the third grade failed miserably. In the second round, Kaminato and Chris tied with 2 hits, a third-year win. In the third round, Kaminato, Yuki, Misuko, Kaminato hits, and Yuki hits in time. Third grade wins. 2 wins, 1 loss. This is the fourth round. Sawamura has already struck out Kaminato and Chris, and now faces the captain. Oh, Kataoka nodded, then stared at Tetsu seriously. Yuki, do you still want to continue? Tetsuya looked up at Kataoka, overcame the guilt in his heart, and said honestly, Yes, sir, I want to. Kataoka nodded and looked at Sawamura Eijun again. How about you? Sawamura, who had thought that the game was over, heard Kataoka's question, and his expression became serious. Yes, please. Although the goal has been achieved, Sawamura already knows his problems and the direction he will work hard in the future. But the game is not over. How can he give up? Now, Kataoka understand what's going on. Is he going to stop them? Then go ahead. Kataoka said immediately. Superintendent, President Oda looked at Kataoka in surprise. Since it has already started, what if there is no result? Be good at the beginning and end well. To not make the pitcher or the batters think too much and it will affect their play. So let them continue. Kataoka said. After he finished speaking, he looked at Sawamura. After this round, whoever loses will be punished. This okay too, right? No problem. Sawamura felt as if something was wrong. Why was Kataoka staring at him and asking? It is fine, although there is an ominous premonition in his heart. That is all later, and now Sawamura still hopes to continue the game. Let's do this. 41. Chapter 41. I will do it part 2. I will do it. The duel resumed, and Kataoka directly replaced Chris and stood in the position of the referee. Chris was about to take off the protective gear, and Kataoka shook his head. No need. He was just like that, without any protective gear, and stood behind the catcher Miyuki. Let's start. Start what? This kind of Kataoka scared Miyuki's cold sweat out of his skin. Do you know how much psychological pressure you put on the pitcher? Originally, the advantage of the third grade is not small. But is it too much to pull the side of the frame like this? Miyuki wanted to say something, but looking at Kataoka's iceberg-like face, he didn't know what to say. Based on what he knew about his own coach, when Kataoka did something, it was definitely not without reason. The biggest possibility is to test Sawamura's courage. Facing such a Kataoka, what kind of ball can Sawamura throw? It's just strange that Sawamura has won the national championship twice. Although he is the overlord of the softball league, his psychological quality and ability to bear do not need to be tested, right? Or does the supervisor want to see Sawamura's pitching more clearly from the position of the referee? Partner, you have to pitch well. The next few pitches are likely to become an important test for whether you can take over as the ace in the future. Miyuki thought and gave Sawamura a sign. Make good use of the previous ball and the next ball. Be more careful. Like Miyuki, Chris also saw Kataoka's intentions, and he was very emotional. Sawamura, who has just entered school for less than a month, has already embarked on the road to the ace. Of course, there are reasons like Tampa's poor state, but the root cause is Sawamura's pitching, which is enough to raise eyebrows. Come on, show off your pitching and impress the coach. The second ball, a straight fastball just below the center. It looks exactly the same ball path as just now, but the ball path is completely different. The timing is different, the course is different, and the break is also different. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura nodded slightly. At this time, there was no Kataoka in his eyes. He didn't think as much as Chris and Miyuki did. He only had Miyuki's gloves in his eyes and the opponent blocking him. It has to be faster. Faster. The ball needs to be fast, but the action needs to be slow, and it needs to look natural and non-threatening. Go now. Like a ball thrown naturally, the small white ball is like a rocket that is constantly advancing, and in the blink of an eye, it arrives in front of Tetsuya. Here it comes. The momentum of the batter, all over his body, suddenly soared and hit the flying baseball. In the position of the catcher, Miyuki's pupils suddenly widened. This ball, too sweet, will be swept away. Sawamura may have paid too much attention to the power of the ball, and his control of the ball was deviated. The position of the ball was too easy to hit. Sure enough, Tetsuya hit the ball with his swing. Ping! He swung the bat like a lightning bolt and hit the flying baseball ruthlessly. Done. There was some despair in Miyuki's eyes, but the next development was beyond his expectations. The white ball, after hitting it, landed in front of the pitcher's mound. Sawamura pounced like a hungry tiger and covered the rebounding baseball with his gloves. Out. In the fourth game, with 3 ups and 3 downs, Sawamura won this round. Both sides 2-2. Miyuki glanced at Sawamura in surprise, not understanding how the ball had changed direction. In the position of the referee, Kataoka could see very clearly that Sawamura's pitching showed the power of not losing to Tetsu's swing just now, almost in a head-to-head situation. Coupled with the influence of the previous breaking ball, there is an immediate result. But even so, the pitch that was just thrown was amazingly fast, and it was difficult for an average pitcher to adjust and hold the ball after the pitching motion started. and Sawamura did it. Very good. Kataoka seemed satisfied with the result. Who's winning? When he asked this, everyone was telling the truth. Draw. Kataoka seems to be very dissatisfied. How can it be leveled? Someone has to lose? Yes, it's draw. Everyone was basically enjoying themselves, especially in front of Kataoka. Each one behaved more honestly than the other, united and unanimous. When gentlemen confront each other, peace is the most usual result. That won't work, another round. Kataoka disagreed and asked for a playoff. All competitions have to go to the end, and there is always only one loser and one winner. Your duel should be like this. This is called flaming the fire, and it's all for the sake of it. In any case, the 5th round will continue. Then let's decide the lineup. Sawamura was a little broken, and he had no choice but to fight the same batters 5 times in one match. In the experience of Sawamura's previous life, it has never happened before. This matchup is too passive for pitchers. In the last round, it's better to decide the outcome of the match. Kataoka took the initiative to propose. Yes, the coach spoke, and everyone naturally had no objection. He is the boss. He has the final say. Tetsu, Masuko is eager to play. Kaminado, Isashiki's eyes are shining, and even Chris is very interested. Kataoka, wearing sunglasses, ignored them and walked to the strike zone alone. The last one, I will do it. Pitching duels, heads up 1-on-1. Sawamura Eijun versus Kataoka Teshin. Kataoka's actions stunned everyone. They don't understand what it means when Kataoka stands in the batting zone at this time. You made it clear that you want to give people a chance to solve this, and now you want to what? Kataoka is a coach. He used to be a player when he was a student. He was a very famous baseball player until he graduated from college. He even received invitations from several professional teams. But since graduating from university to the present, Kataoka has not had a serious fight with anyone for 5 years. No matter how much strength you had before, once you haven't touched the bat for too long, your batting strength will definitely decline. Judging from Sawamura's pitching performance just now, isn't he an opponent who can challenge the superintendent head-to-head? Superintendent, coach Kataoka-san, the players, and manager Oda, both of them tried to persuade. Kataoka played in place of 3rd-year players, which was really uneconomical. You're saying that you're going to win, right? There's no credit. Teachers win students. Isn't this a matter of course? But if you lose, you will lose a lot of prestige. Kataoka obviously didn't care about this. After he made a suggestion, he stood in the strike zone and looked at Sawamura without blinking. Come on then. The corners of Sawamura's mouth curled up. Since Kataoka wanted to do it himself, the young pitcher naturally had no reason to object. Kataoka came up to bully him, and Sawamura Eijun didn't mind playing along. With a plan, Eijun stepped onto the pitcher's mound and prepared to fight. Miyuki and Chris looked at each other, and finally, Miyuki wore the catcher's mask and stepped into the position of the catcher. In the 5th round, Sawamura's duel against Kataoka is about to begin, and this duel that took nearly an hour has come to an end. 42. Chapter 42, Boss. As the saying goes, boxing needs a healthy fist, and singing needs a clear voice, whether it was for sports or something else. As long as there is no serious contact for a long time, it is difficult for a person to maintain a peak state. Don't look at these players in the 3rd grade of Seco High School. They're all trained by Kataoka. But Kataoka's own strength, especially his current strength, is not necessarily that strong. Miyuki gave Sawamura a sign, don't underestimate the strength of the coach, and be careful when pitching. Even so, Miyuki himself does not think that Kataoka, who has retired from the college baseball team for 6 years, can hit Sawamura's pitch easily. The players of Seco High School practice swinging every day because they have to rely on their own performance to climb up, to represent the team in the games, to win. Many students even think about relying on the bat in their hands to get food in the future. In this way, even if there is no one to supervise them, they practice swinging the bat every day. The bat is like their own hands and feet to them. Although Kataoka is also instructing everyone to train, he has retired and is now a coach and does not need to practice swinging every day. He doesn't have to play, so what's the point of swinging every day? Swing practice is very boring. Will people insist on doing a boring and meaningless thing? Of course not. So Miyuki was certain that if he was simply speaking of strikeouts, Coach Kataoka would definitely be easier than Tetsu-san. It's even better that this is his first time standing in the batting zone to hit Sawamura's ball. Combining these two aspects together, Kataoka has no chance of winning. On the pitcher mound, Sawamura had the exact same idea. Kataoka's strength, pitching, and swinging may still have a very powerful power, and even these aspects are not inferior to professional players. But his hand feel is definitely not as good as the Sea-Doo players who swing their bat every day. In the face of such an opponent, it is not difficult to solve him. The first ball, changeup. Because there is no information about Kataoka's batting, Miyuki's match is also more casual. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura also understood what Miyuki meant. Was it nothing more than teasing the superintendent? The first ball is the changeup outside of the zone, which has a double assault effect on the batter. Okay, let's do it. Sawamura still felt a bit bad. Is it not bad to use bold pitch calling to torment his own coach? On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura's aura was rising, his right leg was raised high, and then he slashed down like a battle axe. As the center of gravity shifted, he swung his arm like a whip and threw the ball out. It was not until Sawamura pitched the ball that Kataoka saw Sawamura's throwing spot. On the box, there was a hint of relief in the eyes wearing sunglasses. Sure enough, standing in the batting zone, this form is different. Can't even see where the ball is being dropped. Not to mention pitching, this form alone is also a very advantageous weapon. Of course, it was taught by me. His heart was full of pride for 0.1 seconds. And then Kataoka's expression changed. What was originally an iceberg turned into a sword that was about to be unsheathed. Whoosh! Sawamura's pitch came stealthily, and Kataoka took the time to swing the bat decisively. Ping! The white ball was hit and flew out high. The ball flew over the dam, over the high wall, and into the campus of Sea-Doo. Home run! A hit! A home run! Everyone in the audience was sluggish at this moment, sluggish to the point of being motionless. They have either had their turn against Sawamura or hit Sawamura's pitch, and have a clear understanding of the young pitcher's changeup. Such a ball will be directly hit a home run from the first time. Okay, the result is out. The swing was successful, and Kataoka dropped the bat. On the pitcher's mound, Sawamura's expression was like eating a fly, and the swing just now made him feel professional. A more mature and powerful professional swing than a Yuki Tetsuya swing. Kataoka Tenshin, his strength is so terrifying. If they had known this earlier, if they had known that he was a batter who waited for the ball to enter his hand before swinging. The underestimation of the enemy caused such a result, which Sawamura did not expect. However, this is still a loss. I lost. Seeing Sawamura's relieved smile, the rest of Sea-Doo felt that Sawamura was more reliable and trustworthy. Manager Oda was afraid that Sawamura's self-confidence would be hit and rushed forward to comfort him. Don't underestimate the coach. He still retains the strength of a professional player. This is what Oda said with sincerity. Sawamura himself also remembered many details of his previous life that he had overlooked. Kataoka often swings the bat to guide everyone in training, and the swing itself is amazing. Of course, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Kataoka can support the fielding practice of all the main third-year players by himself. He drilled all the main forces of the third grade to the point of paralysis by himself. If he didn't train regularly, how could his arms be able to handle it? Kataoka has never faced off against a pitcher before. Not because he is afraid of his own shame, but afraid of the pitcher's collapse. Right? Boss. After Sawamura lost, he didn't bother. Excitedly, he ran up and bowed to Kataoka to apologize. After Sawamura saluted, he immediately said, "Let's play another game." After being hit a home run, Sawamura's eyes did not have any confusion, but instead shone with light. Like a kid who just learned to play baseball, Kataoka nodded. The chance to fight is not something you decide, but you will have it. Have you forgotten what I said before? No. Then run until dinner. Yes. Sawamura ran towards the campus. Looking at Sawamura's back in the distance, a smile appeared on Kataoka's mouth. Then he looked behind him. You guys go too, Isashiki muttered dissatisfiedly. It's not us who lost. Vacation canceled. Extra training until the end of dinner. Extra exercise. Running. Do you still have questions? No, sir. When Kataoka showed his authority as a superintendent, Isashiki and the others had no doubts. The third grade is gone. Miyuki quietly hid in the bridge hole, ready to slip away. You go too. Sure enough, Miyuki left with a look of hopelessness on his face and followed the third-year seniors. The sun was falling, and a group of people were running in circles outside the baseball field of Sita High School. Captain Yuki, Isashiki, Kaminato, Masuko, Miyuki, Chris, and the first-year Sawamura. What happened? Why is that guy Sawamura running with the senpais who are the main force of the first string? Did we miss something? On the field, there are also the training second and third string students who are watching those runners just like watching prehistoric dinosaurs. This incident has many benefits for Sawamura. Not to mention the pitching. After being punished, his relationship with the seniors in the third grade has become close, which can be considered a win. After today, Sawamura officially started his new career in the first string. 43. Chapter 43. Two-Face Sawamura from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 6:30, a full 2.5 hours. Sawamura feels like his body is about to fall apart. He doesn't want to move. He just doesn't want to move. His muscles were so sore that he lost consciousness, and he didn't want to lift any part of his body. Seeing that although tired, but still able to talk about what to eat for dinner to form them, Sawamura really wanted to drag them to those crazy scientists, to slice them up and study how these guys exercise themselves for 2 years to this extent. Although Sawamura did not join a big powerhouse in middle school, he approached the limit of his own training without damaging his body. Even those players who have been trained in powerhouse schools, Sawamura is very confident that he wouldn't lose. Not just that, his physical fitness before entering high school will definitely surpass them. In the same way, it has also surpassed the current third-year players before entering the Sea-Doo. In just 2 years, they have honed themselves to such a level that they are already very close to the physical fitness of professional players. If it were 1 or 2, everyone had individual differences, and Sawamura was not narrow-minded. But even Miyuki Kinzuya and Kaminato Ryosuke, who didn't look strong, were better than him, which made Sawamura a little dejected. Not only skills, but even the body needs more training. Sawamura secretly competed with these seniors. In the evening, in the exclusive cafeteria of the baseball club, the sign at the dining window reads, "You must eat 3 bowls or more." Sawamura was determined, and this time he must complete the mission. Eat a lot, and then use training to consume all the food you eat. This is Sea-Doo's training method. Although it may seem simple and crude, he has to admit that it is very effective. After eating, Kaminato, Haruchi, and Kanemaru got close to Sawamura and asked him why he went for a run with the third-year senior on vacation day. It's a secret. Sawamura refused to elaborate. He could never tell Haruchi and Kanemaru that he ran with the captain and the others because they were being punished. Haruchi and Kanemaru both looked at Sawamura with a bit of envy in their narrowed eyes. Sawamura actually enjoys this feeling quite a bit. Although it is a little naive, the envious eyes of his friends are also intoxicating. You are so relaxed. Just when Sawamura was talking to Kanemaru and Kaminato Haruchi, Miyuki suddenly appeared out of that corner. How does it feel to go head-to-head with the coach? After having eaten 2 bowls of rice, Sawamura, who was in good spirits and was about to take the 3rd bowl, suddenly lost his appetite. It is known that Miyuki has a bad personality, and this is very true. He really knows how to ruin people's mood and which buttons to press, which makes Sawamura roll his eyes. Is it not your fault? If the first ball is not a change-up, Sawamura thought, and clenched his fists unwillingly. The change-up pitch was good. It should have been to the outside corner, right? If the pitching was better, the coach would have been fouled. Miyuki ignored his mistake but stabbed Sawamura in the wounds. Unfortunately, there is no next time. Sawamura knew that Miyuki wanted to comfort him and also to provoke him. Miyuki would do anything to get the pitcher to throw a good pitch. Although Sawamura was upset, he knew that he was kind, so he wouldn't dislike him just because of Miyuki's words. The next time he fights, he must defeat Kataoka in an upright manner. It's really hidden well. In his previous life, Sawamura never knew that Kataoka's batting was so good. Next time, I will beat him for sure. At this moment, Sawamura suddenly showed a fierce aura that absolutely refused to let it go. This aura surprised Kanemaru and Kaminado, who were eating by his side, without warning, and suddenly felt the heavy pressure. Kanemaru looked at Sawamura in surprise. He had always thought that Sawamura was a natural leader and a kind person at the same time. Remember that a week after entering the school asked students to grade all the teachers who substitute. At the beginning of the semester and at the end of the semester, students give marks to teachers. Private schools will affect teachers' salaries and bonuses, and public schools have not seen any use. Sawamura gave excellent grades to almost all the substitute teachers. There were even 2 teachers who gave him extra class because he was late and sleeping, and he still gave an excellent grade. Didn't they almost fail you before? After seeing it, Kanemaru asked Sawamura strangely, "These people have families, and it's not easy for them to support their families. It's not easy for me to make a grade and affect other people's income. Besides, they're not the kind of heinous teachers themselves. Forget it. Let them be forgiven," Sawamura said with a smile. Kanemaru felt that in this life, he would never forget the smile on Sawamura's face at that time. The top of his head is like a little angel with a halo shrouded in it. He's someone who thinks about others. Since then, Kanemaru and Sawamura had become friends. Although Kanemaru didn't agree with Sawamura's character, he didn't dislike Sawamura's character. Have their own principles, but do not lose kindness. Kanemaru never knew that Sawamura would have such a fierce aura. In life and baseball, Sawamura is definitely 2 people. In life, Sawamura is quite a bit, taking a step back and being open-minded. On the baseball field, Sawamura would not take a single step back. Wait, that seems to be the wrong point. Did you go head-to-head with Coach Kataoka? After being stunned for a while, Kanemaru finally realized that something was wrong. When he yelled, everyone in the hall was stunned. The players in the baseball club all stared at Sawamura in amazement. Sawamura patted his head in despair. This time, it's a shame to throw it home. In the evening, Sawamura and his friend from the first year went to the conference room for a meeting. On the way, they suddenly encountered a beautiful second-year girl blocking the road. "Senpai, it doesn't seem like it's school time today, right?" Sawamura asked curiously. "My name is Kusaki Sakurako, and I'm the cheerleader of Sidu. I want to ask Sawamura-kun, if you participate in the competition, will your fan clubs come too? The Brotherhood of the Red Heart and the Demon King's Guard?" Sawamura was stunned for a moment. This is so strange. Kusaki Sakurako was a little shy. "If they come, can we discuss this? Lest cheerleaders join them?" "What?" Sawamura stared blankly at Sakurako, wondering what the senior was thinking. Even if those guys came, wouldn't Sidu's cheerleading team be with Sidu's cheering team? Leaving the not right in the head senpai behind, Sawamura went to Sidu's conference room. Tomorrow is the final of the spring finals, followed by the Kanto tournament. Before the Kanto tournament is the Golden Week. Sawamura's career in the first string is beginning to be formalized. 44. Chapter 44. The Golden Week in the final of the spring competition, Seto High School chose to retain its strength and dispatch the substitute to start the game, and finally lost to the opponent by 1 point. The opponent on the other side is also the substitute. After losing the final of the spring competition, Sidu ushered in the Golden Week. Japan's Golden Week has nothing to do with Labor Day. From the end of April to May, there are several festivals next to each other, which are Showa Day, April 29th, Constitution Memorial Day, May 3rd, Greening Day, May 4th, and Children's Day on May 5th. Exactly, it is said to be Boys' Day, and this day is also the Dragon Boat Festival of Japan. The visual icon before and after the Golden Week is actually always associated with carp windsocks, mostly because one of the customs of Boys' Day is that families with boys hang carp windsocks in the field yard. On a beautiful early summer day, the colorful carp windsocks flutter in the wind, creating a lively and colorful atmosphere, which probably no one will resist. During this period, employees and students will have a holiday, which is enough for a week, so it is called Golden Week. After the rest of the students were on vacation, the players of the Seco Baseball Club ushered in an intensive tour. During the 7 days, Seco's first string went to 5 places and had 6 practice matches. In practice games, Sawamura also began to appear gradually, not as a pitcher, but as an outfielder. In this regard, Sawamura is very annoyed. If he hadn't lost to Kataoka in the duel, Sawamura would have suspected that Kataoka was avenging his hurt pride. But in fact, Kataoka won the duel, and it is really stupid to say that he's taking his revenge. In practice games, Sawamura was an outfielder. But the practice menu usually is the same as that of a pitcher, even more heavy than the average pitcher. Chris and Miyuki even took turns overseeing his training. At the same time, Sawamura's ordinary magic ball and fork ball were also sealed in the public training. The most important thing now is the speed of the ball. If your ball speed can soar to 140 plus your control, even if it is just your straight ball and moving ball, it is already a very sharp weapon. You need to eat as much as you can chew. It's okay to practice other breaking balls when your ball speed reaches the bottleneck. The more weapons, the better. The sharper, the better. But the truth is, having one sharp weapon is not uncommon on baseball fields. If you sharpen this weapon enough, it will not lose its power if you learn other weapons. Kataoka, Chris, and Miyuki, the 3 people suddenly become the incarnation of 3 wise warriors, taking turns to impart wisdom and enlighten the clueless young pitcher. Sawamura couldn't help but click his tongue inwardly. Do they really think he's a kid? The goal of these people is obvious. That is, until the summer competition, he seals his other pitches and waits until the right time to unseal them. In the end, it's just about preserving power. Otherwise, why let Chris guide him in practicing the ordinary magic ball, and let Miyuki guide him in practicing the fork ball? During the tour, Furuya stayed in the second string to train fielding. If he didn't hone his defense, he wouldn't even be a relief for Seco in the competition. Relying on the leadership of the third-year players, Seco High School's first string won 6 battles and returned to school with unparalleled morals. Although Sawamura was not on the mound, he was glowing too, and he did a decent job at the outfielder position. In 6 games, a total of 2 defensive mistakes were made. In terms of batting, in 6 games, 3 starts, and 2 substitutes, he went through a total of 17 at-bats, hitting 7 hits and 6 RBIs. The batting average is as high as 40%. This statistic is second only to the on-base rate of Tetsu and Kaminato Ryosuke, and even higher than Miyuki, Kuramochi, Isashiki, and Masuko. Through his own strength, Sawamura has won the recognition of all the players of the first string. After the Golden Week tour is over, Sawamura returned to school, and he ushered in the Kanto tournament after 2 days of class. This time, the first string issued the number on the back. Sawamura was number 18, Chris number 19, and Furuya was number 20. I'll win. Is there a limit of 18 or 20 people in the Kanto tournament? I haven't found out. Let's count it as 20 people. It has little impact on the story. In the tour, Chris also participated, and he performed very well. If it wasn't for the fact that his body had just recovered, the coach and the coaching staff would not be too relieved. He might have already begun to compete with Miyuki and Mayachi for the main catcher. Seco Baseball Club, Office of the Superintendent. The match table of the Kanto tournament was placed on the table in Kataoka. Because Seco was the second place in Tokyo, it belonged to the B group lottery, and their luck was very bad. The opponent in the first round was the strong enemy from Kanagawa, Yokohama North High School. The original name would be Yokohama Northport High School, which would be a mouthful, so I decided to delete Port and go with Yokohama North. As mentioned before, Kanagawa, like West Tokyo, belongs to the fierce battle zone. The strength of Yokohama North High School can be imagined when it comes out of Kanagawa in the fierce battle zone and participates in the Kanto tournament. Apart from this, there is one more thing to mention. Like Seco, Yokohama North belongs to the national level high school powerhouse. With such a team, you cannot be careless at any time. Kataoka sat on the chair. His fingers tapped the group table rhythmically, and the expression on his face was always invisible. Supervisor, tomorrow's starter? Oda asked, rubbing his hands together. The starting list for the game against Yokohama North has not been finalized for a long time. Seeing that the time is getting more and more urgent, Oda must be in a hurry. Call a string to the conference room. Kataoka's fingers suddenly stopped, and his eyes became firm. In the conference room, all the players of the first string gathered together, waiting for Kataoka to issue an order. Tomorrow's starting lineup: pitcher Tampa Koichiro, catcher Miyuki Kinzuya, first baseman Yuki Tetsuya, second baseman Kaminato Ryosuke, third baseman Masuko Toru, shortstop Kuramochi Yoichi, midfielder Isashiki Jun, right fielder Shiratsu Kinjiro, left fielder, saying that Kataoka glanced back and forth between Sawamura and Sakai Ikaru. Sawamura Eijun. Yes, Sawamura raised his hand in agreement. However, his brows also furrowed, staring as an outfielder. It seems that in tomorrow's game, his coach is not going to put him on the mound. After the starting roster was announced, Kataoka looked at Tampa and told him, for tomorrow's game, try to finish the game you're pitching and show your fighting spirit and strength. Yes. Tampa glanced at Sawamura, then at Furuya, clenched his fists, and answered loudly. Furuya Satoru, start to prepare from the 7th inning. If there is a chance, I will arrange for you to play. There are 2 opportunities for this. Either Sidu will win, or Sidu is in danger. Then I'll be ready. Okay. Seeing that he is now on the side, Sawamura took the initiative to ask. For Sawamura's initiative, Kataoka is very pleased, but he did not intend to fully expose Sawamura at the Kanto tournament. If you score enough in the first 2 innings, I will find an opportunity to arrange for you to play in the 3rd inning. In the first 2 innings, you can need to feel the atmosphere of the high school powerhouse. Even if you go to the mound in the future, if you can't get used to it, I can't use your pitching for the time being, understand? Understood. Sawamura frowned in dissatisfaction, but nodded in agreement. 45. Chapter 45. The Battle of the Giants in the first round of the Kanto tournament. West Tokyo's Sidu High School versus Kanagawa's Yokohama North High School. The fight of powerhouses. Although there are no weak teams in the Kanto tournament, such a strong match still makes the people who like baseball very excited. A lot of the audience came and filled half of the stands. Because the competition wasn't held in Tokyo, there was no way for the school's cheerleaders and students to cheer along. So only the players from the 2nd string and the 3rd string came. The 2 sides started the game and sent the main force. The name of this left fielder is so familiar. It seems like I've heard it somewhere. The coach of Yokohama held Sidu's starting list and stared at the names in a daze. First grade, Sawamura Eijun. This name, he has heard about him before. Forget it. If you're a first-year student, you won't be able to make any big waves. Throwing the list aside, the coach of Yokohama stared at the players in front of him seriously and said, think about the training you have received in all these years and demonstrate it during the match. Yes. In the first half of the game, Yokohama attacked first. On the other side, in the dugout where Sido High School is located, Kataoka looked at his students and said, Ino's ball speed is not fast. He is a pitcher who fights with his control. There are 3 types of pitches that he throws: straight ball, slider, and vertical slider. With his ball control, his breaking ball is very difficult to hit. From the first round, aim for the straight ball and swing fully. Yes, all the players of Sidu have a high fighting spirit. As for the defense, it's up to you, Miyuki. After arranging the offensive tactics, Kataoka then handed over the defense to Miyuki. Yes, Miyuki nodded solemnly. Game start. The first batter of Yokohama got into the batting box. Facing this opponent, Miyuki decisively gave Tampa a sign. On the mound, Tampa nodded lightly. Whoosh! The first ball is a high-drop curveball. In the face of this ball, even the Yokohama batter could not swing the bat. Snap! Strike! After a good pitch, Miyuki gave Tampa a sign for a ball to the inside corner. The Yokohama batter, who had just been startled by Tampa's curveball, did not flinch. Instead, he swung the bat toward the ball. The swing missed, and the ball went straight into Miyuki's open glove. Strike! After 2 strikes, Miyuki asked for the third. This ball, the Yokohama batter, who has been chased, can only swing the bat and miss the swing. Miyuki called for a straight ball that strayed from the strike zone. Strike! Batter out. Tampa, who doesn't seem to be very strong, seems to be a different person when he throws the ball. After striking out the first batter, Tampa tempted Yokohama's second bat to swing, and the ball flew to the shortstop's fielding position. Yeah, the figure, like a cheetah, suddenly rushed out, picked up the ball, and passed it to first base. Out. Without any hesitation, Seco scored 2 outs. At this point, no matter who looked at it, Tampa's pitching was very good. Sharp changes, steady ball control, and the air of a pitcher. Although Seco has always had the problem of lacking a strong pitcher, but to be honest, Tampa's pitching is really good. Anyway, he is also the ace of Seco now. Tampa, come on. Seco. The discussions in the stands continued one after another. On the field, Yokohama's third batter, shortstop Oyama, came out. Oyama looked at Tampa on the pitcher's mound coldly, as if to devour him alive. This icy aura was not only felt by Tampa, but also by Miyuki in the position of the catcher. After feeling it, a smirk appeared on Miyuki's mouth. Exactly, let us see what kind of strength Yokohama's core lineup. Tampa senpai, next pitch here, whoosh. On the pitcher's side, he threw the ball unceremoniously, and on the other side, Oyama didn't hesitate at all and swung the bat directly. Ping! After the white ball was hit, it landed in the zone between the shortstop and second baseman. Seeing that the ball was about to fly to the outfield, a vigorous figure jumped up and caught the baseball that was about to fly out. At this time, the ball had already fallen, and there was no way to get up and pass the ball in time. Hiyahario-san, pass it on to me. Kaminado, who stopped the ball, was too late. On the shortstop position, Kuramochi didn't hesitate to help his senior cover. Snap! Kaminado Ryosuke didn't hesitate and threw the ball to Kuramochi, who passed the ball to first base. Out. 3 shutout. Although there is credit for the defense, Tampa's own pitching is really good and to a certain extent suppresses Yokohama's line. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. In the second half of the game, Seco High School attacked. First batter, shortstop, Kuramochi Kun. He-ha-ha-ha. With a strange laugh, Kuramochi stepped into the strike area. Come on. Kuramochi's small eyes were full of provocation. Yokohama's pitcher, Ino, looks unremarkable. You can't feel the strength of this man just from his pitching. Unlike Furuya and Sawamura, as long as he throws a ball with all his strength, it is enough to shock the audience. But such a pitcher is the ace of the giant Yokohama. Of course, he will not be as useless as everyone thinks. He has enough weapons to threaten or even break opponents. In the face of such a pitcher, it is not Kuramochi's character to stand in the strike zone and fight honestly face to face. Therefore, for the first ball, Kuramochi chose to bunt. As soon as he was in the bunt position, he saw Yokohama's third baseman running forward. He was already prepared. Faced with this situation, Kuramochi was not annoyed and immediately turned the bat and hit the ball in the direction of first base. Ino's pitching, whether it's speed or power, is average, and Kuramochi can still decide the direction of the pitch with a bunt. Ping! The baseball lands and rolls to first base. Kuramochi dashed to the first base like a mad dog of the reins. Yokohama's first baseman was ready to rush out and throw the ball, and their second baseman consciously moved to first base when he saw Kuramochi bunt. Got to first base early at this point. Kuramochi is fast, but not as fast as the ball. Yokohama's second baseman Norimura, when he reached second base, he received a pass from the first baseman. Out. Kuramochi missed the base by an inch. After Kuramochi was out, Kaminado Ryosuke came up and Yokohama pitcher Ino threw a straight ball. This is tantamount to blatant bullying. The other party obviously studied the information of the batters and Seco very thoroughly and knew what method to use to deal with these batters. 46. Chapter 46. Another kind of pitcher's ping. Kaminado Ryosuke hit the ball, and the ball fell between the first baseman and the second baseman. A very good gap. The ball was good, and there was no problem in getting hits, but Yokohama's second baseman seemed to have divine help and also flew to catch the ball and passed it to their first baseman. Out. With 2 outs and no one on base, it was Isashiki's turn to hit the third. Isashiki also hit the ball, but was caught by the defense of a Yokohama player. You pitched so well, Ino. As expected of Yokohama's ace. Let Seco's bats keep swinging. In the stands, the Yokohama supporters cheered on their ace like crazy, and the atmosphere was very warm. This scene made all the young Furuya in the seated dugout look stupid. Is that pitcher's pitch just now very strong? He asked Sawamura at the next to him. Sawamura was very speechless when asked, a top powerhouse in the country. The ace of Yokohama, you don't think he is strong? Some pitchers are powerful. You can't feel it unless you stand in the zone and experience it for yourself. Just like the ace of Yokohama. On the surface, he doesn't seem to be scary. But that's not the case. He relies on control to lure batters into swinging, and then he relies on defense to get outs. If you just talk about his pitching, it's not really that impacting. But with the team, the power of his pitching will come out. However, it is difficult for such a pitcher to become a top pitcher, much less a legend. His style is destined to make it difficult for him to fight the opponent and strike them out at critical moments. But such a pitcher also has his advantages. He is stable. In a game, relying on defense, he can control the loss of points. For a true powerhouse, the pitcher's pitching and the batter's swing all have to tell about the current feeling. Since it is about the feeling of the hand, it must not be 100% reliable. The most reliable thing is the player's defense. A pitcher like Ino cooperates with the defense of a strong team, and the well-formed powerhouse defense is very stable. Even for a team like Seco, it is not easy to score points. Here is an example. Just like the in-team match from Sawamura's previous life, Sawamura's own strength is actually not that strong. But with other freshmen who graduated from junior clubs, he suppressed Seco's second string. He pitched 4 innings and only dropped 3 points. To a certain extent, Ino is a pitcher of the same type as Sawamura. With his cooperation with Yokohama's defense, Yokohama has the qualifications to stand at the peak as a powerhouse. This is what Sawamura said. The strength of some pitchers cannot be seen off the field. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. In the first half of the second inning, Yokohama attacked. Tampa and Ino are different types of pitchers. Tampa fights by relying on the power of the ball and the break of the ball. Ping. Tampa's ball was swept into the outfield for the first pitch in the first half of the second inning. It was Yokohama's fourth, first baseman Furano who hit the ball. Furano, one of the most famous super batters in the country. The ball flew far into left field. Sawamura figured out where the ball would land, waited there early, and caught the flying ball in his hand. Out. Outfield save. Although it is a slow, high-flying ball, as a first grader, you can judge where the ball is falling. Sawamura's performance in the outfielder position is still remarkable. Furano was shut out, and the momentum of Yokohama was greatly affected. After that, the 2 batters were also dealt with successively. A strikeout, a goofy fly ball in front of third base, was stopped by Seco. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. The aces of both sides performed very well. In the second half of the second inning, it was Seco's turn to attack. The starter is the 4th batter, first baseman, Yuki Tetsuya. At the beginning of the duel, Ino pitched the ball and Tetsu swung his bat unhesitant. Ping. After the white ball was hit, it flew out like a shooting star. During the flight of the baseball, everyone on the scene seemed to be frozen. It wasn't until the baseball landed with a pop that the people came to life. A clean outfield hit. Yuki went over first base and second base and progressed to third base. Seco hit a super 3-base hit from the first swing. No out, runner at third base. For Seco, this is a great scoring opportunity. Captain, you are so cool. Beautiful play. Masuko-senpai, come on. Let's get ahead, Seco. The players were excited one by one, as if they had taken some kind of stimulant. At this time, it was Masuko's turn to hit as the 5th batter. Before Masuko entered the field, he glanced at the bullpen and waited for Kataoka's signal. In the dugout, Kataoka's eyes were extremely sharp. After seeing the situation on the field, he gave Masuko a signal to play normally. The farther he hit, the better. Then he gave Tetsu a sign to run home plate when he had a chance. There are no outs now. There's a runner at third base. It is said that 1 point is already in the bag. At this time, let Masuko play normally. The pitcher's energy is tied up by the runner of third base, and turnovers are likely. Taking a step back, even if Masuko is unfortunately out, it will be Miyuki who is the 6th batter. When there is someone at third base, Miyuki's attack is invincible. Kataoka had a good plan. Unfortunately, the players from Yokohama did not cooperate well with him. Ino throws a weak ball and lets Masuko fly the ball out to the outfield. At the position of third base, Yuki glanced at the landing spot and frowned. 50 or 60 meters away from home plate. If there is a chance, there is definitely a chance. But it is not without danger. Sidhu's third base running instructor, judging, the distance is enough. Tetsu gives a nod. The style of Sidhu is to actively aim at the next base and move forward. At this time, being able to score a point is of great significance to Sidhu, and it may even completely defeat the pitcher. Made up his mind, he ran to home plate after the baseball fell into the outfielder's glove. Forgot the safer way to score and just steal bases. Sidhu's aggressiveness made people stand upside down. However, Yokohama's outfielder Jinjo had already anticipated the resulting steal. He took 2 steps back and forth after catching the ball and then rushed forward. After catching the ball, he passed the home plate directly. The ball, like a sharp white arrow, galloped to home plate without a trace. After the catcher, Hakuba, catches the ball, he faces the Yuki with his gloves. Out. Double kill. The great score opportunity. Under the iron wall-like defense of Yokohama, Sidhu was stopped. In the dugout of Sidhu, Sawamura rested his chin with one hand and looked at Ino on the pitcher's mound. In high school, pitchers like Ino were a lot. Of course, there are not too many who can play to the level of Ino, but they are not uncommon. But when it comes to careers, there is no market for such pitchers. This is a special pitcher that only belongs to Koshien. 47. Chapter 47. He's here. 2 outs, no one on base. At this time, it was Miyuki's turn to strike. In the surrounding stands, the voices cheering for Yokohama have not yet dissipated. Beautiful. The defensive action just now is so beautiful. In contrast, today's Sidhu's luck is not very good. Miyuki went to the box, and Sawamura was getting ready to follow him. In the dugout of Sidhu, in Furuya's mind, he kept thinking about what Sawamura just said. How is this possible? Seeing that there was no successful base stealing, Furuya subconsciously exclaimed in a low voice. Nothing is impossible. Sawamura heard it next to him and told him with a chuckle. Do you know how the players from the powerhouse train? They will strengthen their training for all situations that will occur on the baseball field. And with the players in Yokohama, the third grade account for the vast majority of their number, which means that they have been together for more than 2 years, and they are familiar with each other. All situations are rehearsed, and reactions will naturally form after a lot of hard work. Also, pay attention to your own fielding stats compared to these players in high school in some respects. Don't underestimate high school baseball, boy. High school baseball was this deep. Furuya had a vague idea, but never had a clear concept. You really have to play baseball to experience it. Ping! Miyuki hit the ball with a bat, and the baseball bounced in front of the pitcher and was caught by Ino. Out. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. At the end of the 2 innings, the 2 sides actually scored 0-0. A fierce collision between giants turned into a pitcher duel of equal strength. It is not difficult to see that the pitchers of the 2 teams are excellent today. In the first half of the 3rd inning, Yokohama North attacked. This time, it was Yokohama's bottom of the line. Before playing, Miyuki purposefully talked with Tampa. The opponent is a famous school. Even if it is the last of the lineup, no batter will be easy to deal with. Be careful. Tampa rolled his eyes at Miyuki. This is what I want to tell you. Both of them are very cautious, even in the face of Yokohama's bottom lineup. The 2 also completed the defense excellently. Except for the 8th batter, the other batters were dealt with easily in turn. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. Although he lost a hit, overall, Tampa's performance in the first 3 innings was perfect. Calm, stable, and pitched sharply. In this way, the game came to the second half of the 3rd inning, and Sidhu High School attacked. 7th, left fielder Sawamura Eijun. Seeing Sawamura walking into the strike area, the commentator took the opportunity to joke a few words. I have to say, Sawamura is really a good surname. I remember.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. R18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the Free Novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.